Welcome to the Mostly Plot Out at Night. Mostly, I am Salem, joined by my co-host, Graveyard.
Hello.
This is episode 14 of our weekly All Things Horror podcast. This is part 4 of our 4-part series on the Halloween franchise and its multiple branching timelines. This episode we will call the Laurie Strode Reboot Timeline. And then this one is again going to start out with the original 1978 Halloween. I guess we go over recap. Do we have to recap this one since we've already done it 3 times already?
No, we can just go through and say, quick recap is Michael Myers escapes, 1978, kills sister 15 years prior, goes after Laurie Strode, kills a tow truck guy and 3 of Laurie's friends, hunts her down, she escapes, he gets shot 6 times.
Yep. Yeah, and then after he gets shot 6 times, they go look in the front yard, and then he's gone, and that's essentially the end of that one. Now, the odd thing is in this first one coming up, they do say that he killed 5 people, and
Yes.
I was sitting there, I'm like 5,
Yes, which
like,
we don't
who's
find.
the 5th? I mean, we do find out later, but
And they change it too. They change it throughout this trilogy too, so there's inconsistencies, quite honestly, in here, because they say 5, Laurie says 3, and then we see the 5th.
right. Yeah, I know for a fact. Well, they say he killed 3 teenagers.
Yes,
They say that, and then they say he killed 5 people.
right.
So I don't know exactly.
Yes. So
Like
we'll get into that.
again, I guess it could be true either way if they say it that specific way. Which
Yes. But in the 1978 Halloween, he kills 4 people. He kills the 3 teenagers, and he kills the tow truck driver for his
off
coveralls.
screen.
Yes,
Right.
off screen. There's a lot of kills off screen.
Yeah, they don't show him actually finding the body, because Loomis is the one that finds the truck. So they don't find him actually finding the body, but we as the audience see the body in the bushes. Correct. And it's heavily insinuated that that's where he got his coveralls from.
Yeah. So as Salem's saying, it's this new trilogy that comes out, and this is going to contain spoilers for Halloween Ends, even though it came out about a week ago. This movie only acknowledges the first Halloween movie. It ignores 2 through, what is it? Let's see here, 8, and then the 2 Rob Zombies.
Right.
And just a quick recap, we're still using our butcher knives out of 10 for this. I gave this 10 butcher knives. Salem gave this 9.
Correct. For the original 1970.
For the original, yes.
Yes, I did.
Yep.
Okay, and then this trilogy is it's Halloween, again renamed the same thing, just a different movie, a 2018 version of Halloween. And then Halloween Kills will be the second one, and then Halloween Ends is the third one.
Yes.
But we're going to start off with the 2018 Halloween. Take it away.
All right. So, essentially, we open up. We see a couple people driving up to Smith Grove Sanitarium. It's nice they keep the same thing in place, right? It's always Smith Grove,
right?
And it's October 30th, and they're 2 true crime podcasters, right? And they're going to see Michael Myers before he gets transferred. They speak to his doctor, the new Dr. Loomis, if you will. Was it Dr. Satrine or something like that?
Like Satar, something like that.
So they're just trying, figure out and, get into the mind of Michael Myers. This is kind of seemingly what they do. They have outdoor time. He's Michael Myers. He's maskless, but we don't really see his face. We see he's bald and gray.
Right. Yeah, they always either if the camera's looking directly at his face, it's like blurred and out of focus, or else they use like weird angles so you don't see his whole face.
Right. But we are alluding that it has been 40 years. So at this point in time, Michael Myers is 61 years old.
Right.
So they go there, they don't ever go in front of him. They try talking to him from behind him, which is a great way to talk to people.
Right. Well, okay. There's one thing that bothered me about this scene is they have like these square blocks of concrete that they're chained to, right?
Yes.
And then they have like a
yellow square,
a yellow marking around it saying like, this is how far they can go. Now the concrete block in the middle is off centered.
Yes.
And the white outside line does not take that into account. So like if you're on that other side, they can go past that yellow line.
Yeah.
Like that just really bothered me. I mean, don't get me wrong. He wasn't even on that side, but it still was like, who made this design? Why is it not in the middle? But
yeah. But they start talking to Michael Myers, trying to ask him questions, asking him to speak. In the yard, there's other prisoners, or not say prisoners, but people institutionalized there, and we do see a couple of them because we will get into one of them in the next movie that we see. They happen.
I like to call him the Penguin.
He looks like Peter Pettigrew from Harry Potter as well.
Yeah, but he also has an umbrella, so that's why I call him the Penguin.
Yeah, he doesn't like sunlight.
Correct.
And they pull out. They got their hands. I don't know if they said how, but of
he
the
said
original mask.
He borrowed it from the Attorney General. Or something like that.
Yeah. So, he pulls out the mask, holds it up, clearly arm crossing the yellow line at that point in time.
Right.
Which is pretty dumb on his part.
Correct.
And you're expecting there seems to be no effect, but with the musical tones, it's implied that he's able to like the mask is calling to him, right?
Well, he did like twitch like a tiny bit, like he moved his head back like a half an inch, but it wouldn't even be something that they might even notice because they were behind him.
Right.
But we as the audience see him move that little half, and it like there was like some kind of acknowledgement, but then it immediately stopped.
Right. So I mean, we understand that as the audience that there is some connection, that he understands that mask, that it does call to him. So kind of from there, we follow them again as they're driving to
the gas station.
They go see Laurie first.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, they do.
So they find out where Laurie is because she's for some reason still in Haddonfield in like a heavily fortified house. They're talking about they're going to go see the Michael Myers counterpart, right? Ying, they say Ying to his Yang or something like that. And they have like $3,000 to give an interview to Laurie Strode. They go there, she takes the money, obviously, pretty blunt in a lot of her answers. They're like, he's being transferred. She's like, oh, I'm fully aware, blah, blah, blah. And just kind of goes into a little, like a exposition dump of things that happened, saying he's pure evil, blah, 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 right?
Right.
And they're talking about, she's drinking heavily. They bring up her daughter, who's played by Judy Greer, that, oh, we heard you lost custody of her when she was 12. Did you ever get her back? And she's like, well, the answer to that, which they should. They do.
Right.
But they're just trying, I feel like they're trying to goad her a little bit.
Yeah, they're trying to get her to engage.
Right.
Because if they get an emotional outburst, whether it's, sadness or anger, that's going to look good for them.
Right. It's going to be great for their podcast. Right.
Right.
But she just kind of like, all right, you're like 2 minutes is up. Get out of here. Give me my money. And, they go and leave. Then we get introduced to Allison, who is Laurie Strode's granddaughter, talking to her mom and dad, talking about, it's night before Halloween. She's valedictorian of her class, asking if, her she says grandmother every single time, which is weird to me.
Well, I think she stresses it like that because her mom doesn't like it.
Right.
Or she doesn't like to hear her name or about her in general, and I think she stretches it out just to unnerve.
Right. And Judy Greer's character, Karen, lies saying, "Oh, I talked to your grandmother that she's not coming, blah, blah, blah." And we get our classic classroom scene with Allison, and she's in English class discussing things, and she looks out the window and she sees her grandmother standing outside watching through the school window, right? Mm-hmm. Which is good opposite of what we always saw of Michael Myers kind of standing outside watching our protagonist. She says, "Hey, I'm having this dinner. You need to come. You can meet my boyfriend." And then, the money that was given to Laurie by the True Crime Podcaster, she gives to Allison to travel, go to Mexico, whatever it was. And, trying to be there and trying to explain to her, why she's so angry, protective of Halloween. Her Karen doesn't seem to get it, even though she was raised that way. Laurie kind of sneaks into her daughter's house with her husband. It's like, "Oh, your back window or side window was open. How I get in? I taught you better, blah, blah, blah." Ray, her son-in-law, is like, "I'll protect them. You don't know what you're dealing with." Then we kind of cut to the True Crime Podcasters going to the gas station. They have to use the Louvre because they're British.
Just the loo. There's no
the loo.
Yeah. Loo.
Yeah. So they use the washroom, and it's a very reminiscent scene that happens next from Halloween H2O when he goes into the rest area. Except this time, he kills the True Crime Podcasters. She's the one podcaster is in the bathroom. You expect, it's just said the callback. Good callback. No, he starts strangling her.
Well, yeah, after knocking on the door and walking back and forth, and then he finally
dropping teeth.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and then he finally So apparently in this one he's like a drama queen. He had 40 years to plan these dramatic entrances.
Right. He killed the mechanic for his coveralls.
All right.
Clearly takes all his teeth and then drops them over. Bursts into the stall, starts strangling her. The other podcaster comes in, tries to reason with him. He gets beaten to death, and she gets her neck snapped, I believe.
Yeah, eventually, after she was rolling around on the floor, trying to crawl under the other things. Yeah, and then she's barricaded in the one, and then he comes in to stop her, and then essentially kills him and then kills her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then everybody that was at the gas station is now deceased.
Correct. Yeah, yeah. So
and of course he pulls the mask out of their trunk,
and his costume is complete.
Yeah, because apparently he knew it would be in their trunk.
Well, I mean, that's the twitch that we saw. He's able to. It's calling to him.
Apparently,
right. Oh, I've got to mention that the podcasters, he sees them, because they go visit Judith Myers' grave, right? Then he follows them to the gas station. They have a dinner. We cut to no, she doesn't find out that happens yet. That Michael's escaped, but we see the was that where we see the bus?
No, bus is before that, because the bus is when he initially gets out.
That's right. Yeah. So the transfer bus crashed. He gets out. The father and son go there. Father's taking son. Honey doesn't want to go. And we see Michael Myers kill a kid. Right. Probably the first kid. Yeah. The son of the hunter dies when they go to check on it. They call, sheriff, a new sheriff shows up, Sheriff Hawkins, Barker.
Right. And a sheriff wearing a cowboy hat in Illinois is stretching it a little bit.
Yeah, Illinois is portrayed very weirdly throughout this entire franchise.
Yeah, it's it gets more and more rural as it goes along. It's it's not that far away. The kid also shot the doctor, because the doctor was on the bus too.
Correct.
He got scared because, I mean, to be fair, the doctor was like being super quiet, like the kid is going hello, hello, and nobody was saying anything.
He jumps out.
He got close to the guy, and he jumps out. He's like, "Don't shoot!" And the kid just boom, just shoots him. I mean, but why would I don't know why you would move and jump at the kid like that?
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying he deserved it, but that was a really stupid move.
Yeah, but we're introduced to Deputy Hawkins, who supposedly arrested Michael in 1978. Here's a big inconsistency that we have. Right, we never heard of him before. And that's where things get changed, that he's arrested.
Because essentially they have to come up with a new story of what happens after 1978 Halloween instead of Halloween 2.
Correct.
Yeah.
He finds the doctor and he starts, transporting him away. And then we find out that, we see the family dinner, that Laurie Strode appears, starts drinking heavily. And she finds out that he's escaped. Michael's escaped, and tries to warn her daughter. They say he's coming, and Karen's like, no, you're wrong. That was 40 years ago. And here's where we hear that when we're talking to the podcasters, say he killed 5 people, right?
Right.
In the 1978, he killed 4. 3 babysitters and the guy, as we said. So, we were kind of you start scratching your heads, like, who's this 5th? Like, I don't recall ever seeing a 5th, which, like I said, we'll get to in the second movie. So let's see here. She's prepping, trying to figure out where he is. Laurie is, and then Allison's going to a Halloween party at school. I believe it's at school.
I think it's like a school dance.
Yeah. Her boyfriend, Cameron, they dress as Bonnie and Clyde, but gender reversed. That was the big twist under Bonnie and Clyde. Cameron drinks like a shot or 2, it seems like.
Yeah. I mean, she wasn't gone long enough for him to be drunk.
Yeah.
I mean, even if he did drink like the entire time she was gone, his body would not have enough time to be drunk yet. It was like that little of amount of time.
Right. And yeah, so she's like, her mother trying to get a hold of her, saying Michael's escaped, and Cameron becomes a giant douche. And like she's on the phone for like a couple minutes, and she comes back and he's kissing a girl at the party. Like, your girlfriend's in the building. Like, doesn't make any sense. Why he would do that. I don't care how drunk he is. Like, that's just a weird thing.
Well,
right?
Again, he didn't have enough time to be drunk yet. He's just an asshole.
Right.
He doesn't even have being drunk as an excuse. He's just an asshole.
Yeah, and then he throws her phone into the punch because the phone has to go away somehow.
That wasn't punch. It was like pudding.
I know. It took forever to sink.
It didn't splash. It went like, and it like stuck, and you like saw it slowly. It was like a pudding. It was like vanilla pudding.
Yeah.
But yeah, with just one thing I want to cut in real quick. Her friend that she was talking to on the phone, who get murdered like directly after she gets off the phone with them.
Yeah.
But it's like her blonde friend and then her boyfriend, right? Now that guy, I was one of those people. It's like, I know this guy from somewhere. Where do I know this guy from? And I was like, I was watching him in a couple of scenes, and I'm like, I know him from somewhere. I have no idea what it is. So I looked it up. Right, I'm looking at filmography. No, nothing I've seen. Yeah. Television, nothing I've seen. I'm like, no, I know this guy from somewhere. What's going on?
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, so I put it down, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, as the scenes were going on, I'm like, man, where is this guy from? And it finally hit me. He was in The Quarry.
Yeah.
The game. But as I looked at his, Wikipedia page, I only went to filmography and then television. I didn't scroll all the way down to game because I assumed it was done after filmography and television, because it almost always is. But yeah, no, it was in The Quarry. And since I played The Quarry, quite a bit, I was like, that's where I knew him from.
Yeah. I mean, he was Mulder and Scully. He saw X-Files, but you didn't watch that. So
yeah, but he was also very young. He wouldn't have had his
right
speech, patterns in yet.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we cut to a babysitter babysitting a kid. The kid goes, the boogeyman's in the room, and she goes in there. investigates. No, nothing there. Her boyfriend comes over, and they're going to get high. They're going to smoke some abracadabra, as they said.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, and she's like, oh, the boogeyman's in the closet. She tries closing the closet door. It doesn't close. She opens it. It's Michael Myers. She gets stabbed. Meanwhile, the boyfriend's like testing out a bike that's in the garage, and he has a really big knife, and Michael Myers seems to get envious of it because it's smaller than the knife that he stole, because he went around killing a couple people, hammer to the head, trying to find the right knife, it seems like.
Sure, I guess that yeah.
Right? Yeah,
Okay.
Everyone has those giant knives all the time, multiples of them in every single house. I don't think I have one.
Well, yeah, every house he opens up a drawer, and the entire drawer is filled with loose knives.
Right. Safe.
Okay.
Perfectly safe.
Right.
So, Allison leaves the party with her friend. We cut to Laurie. She's responds to an emergency call at that babysitter's house. Hawkins is there. He's looking at Michael set up a ghost costume over the babysitter because he has times for arts and crafts.
Like I said, he's like a drama queen in this one.
Yeah.
He sets things up to be like all dramatic.
Yeah. And Laurie sees Michael in the window, shoots at him. It's a mirror. They start chasing him, shooting him. She's able to shoot him, in the shoulder. He kind of just disappears again. Right. Then let's see here. Okay, so
then it would be her walking home with that dude.
Yeah,
so Allison walking home with the guy who was her boyfriend's friend, but he leaves with her
because he's a creeper.
Yeah, well,
Oscar.
because he's a creeper, right? And then as they're walking, he's like, "Oh, so you're not together anymore? Oh, you broke up?" And she's like, "Yeah, he was kissing somebody else. We broke up." And so he goes in for the kiss, of course, very inappropriate. She gets angry, pushes him off, and kind of runs away from him. And then he, sitting there making a whole lot of noise, crying about it.
Yeah, he thinks it's a neighbor following him.
Right.
And they're motion lights.
Right. Yeah. And of course it's Michael Myers, and he gets impaled on a fence.
Well, he gets stabbed, and then the fence impalement gets through his bottom of his chin up through his mouth. Right. Allison sees it and oh crap, Michael Myers is here. Looking for help, runs into the sheriff who has the doctor. They rescue him, and then they see Michael and okay, they're gonna hit him with the car. Is this a callback to Halloween 2? Oh, it's gonna be another person in the costume, just someone else.
Right.
No, they hit him, and the deputy Hawkins is gonna go shoot him, and the doctor goes, no. He's talking about he just wants to see him in the wild. He wants to do all this stuff. He doesn't understand him. And he stabs. He has a retractable scalpel.
Yeah, it's like a retractable switchblade pen. I don't understand what it was, but it was some kind of ridiculous.
But it's a scalpel end of it, though.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but it was a switchblade-esque thing. You hit a button and it went and stuck out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was whatever it was. It was a weapon that he brought with him on purpose.
Right. Yeah, that's just weird. And he stabs the deputy. He drags Michael into the back of the cop car, gives him his mask back because it was taken off, and then starts taking Allison. He's like, I'm taking Michael to go see your grandmother. I planned this whole escape. I want to see what he's like in the wild. Right. And
Allison was very nice enough to just sit quietly and still in the back seat while he was stuffing Michael's unconscious body in next to her.
Right.
Come on, man. The doctor has, because he got shot by the kid.
Right.
So he's got one arm right now.
Yeah.
Okay. And he is somehow lifting Michael, who's a giant dude. He's at least 250, right?
Oh, yeah. He's 7 feet tall, 250, yeah.
Right, and he's shoving this guy in the backseat of a cop car, and she's just sitting there letting this happen.
Right, and the doctor's 4'8", it seems.
Right. I'm dude, you could have easily just pushed Michael over, and she could have escaped. I mean, it would have taken, minimal effort to escape that. But
right.
Whatever. Yeah, so, she just patiently waits while he stuffs his body in there.
Right. sorry, in the meantime, there's cops protecting Laurie's house, Laurie, her daughter, and son-in-law at her house. Like, I'm ready. This is the safest place. There's cops outside. Anyway, back to the car. He goes on the monologue. He's like, I planned all this stuff. I'm bringing Michael to your grandmother. I want to see if he'll speak, blah, blah, blah. He's never spoken. And she goes, he spoke to me. I heard him speak. What did he say? Stop the car and I'll tell you. What did he say? And it was like back and forth for a little bit. Michael wakes up, which is the longest he's ever been unconscious from something so small happening to him.
Right, yeah. Well, so small for him. Getting hit by a car is nothing for him.
Right. And Michael Myers wakes up, kills the doctor, and Allison flees. Then we cut to like the two cops discussing what's the
Vietnamese banh mi sandwiches.
Banh mi sandwiches, yeah. And the guy made brownies. He made like a whole 2 brownies. It's like the two cops. I almost thought for a second they're reminiscent of the Halloween 5 cops.
Yeah, I was waiting for the like music in the background.
That's how stupid they were.
Right.
We see Michael takes the car and goes to finish the drive to the Strode residence. The cops think it's Hawkins. They get out. One gets. I don't think we see what happens to them. We don't.
With the cops?
Well, we see the aftermath.
Yeah, we see the aftermath. They don't show them
right,
actually dying.
Right, just more off-screen deaths. Ray goes out. He sees the cop car. Goes out there. One guy's like stabbed in the neck. The other had been decapitated with like a flashlight stuck in it to look like a jack-o'-lantern.
Okay, yeah. Now, do you know how much time it would take to scrape out everything inside of a human head without actually like cutting the head open?
Maybe he squeezed it out.
I mean, no, it was like intact.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a head-o'-lantern.
Yes.
I mean, don't get me wrong. That was a cool effect. I'm just saying, like, he's got a lot of time on his hands for like these dramatic, evidence of his crimes, and like leaving these bodies in very weird, dramatic ways, which is a totally new thing for Michael Myers.
Yeah.
He likes to stick a knife in him and hang him up on a wall like that. Like he likes to do that, but like this one, he gets all elaborate.
Well, I mean, he's the big knife on the boyfriend, the babysitter, and he at least stabbed him through the wall, through the smallest part of the body, the neck. Right. Maybe that would work.
No, not with a kitchen knife. They're not made for that.
Yeah. So Ray goes outside, sees a cop. Michael comes in and strangles him to death. Allison's not there, but Laurie gets Karen into. She has this. We see allusions to. She has a mechanism that moves her kitchen island and then goes into her basement, like functioning basement, where it's like water heater and stuff like that too. I'm like, how are they getting that in and out of there? That's not functional. But saying it's protected. There's a whole bunch of guns and jarred goods and stuff like that. She leaves her down there, gives her a gun, and then she's waiting for Laurie. Turns on all the outside lights, but still dark inside.
Well, yeah, and she waits until now to do so.
Right. She's by the door. Michael puts his hand through the door, starts choking her, lifting her up. She has a shotgun or just a rifle.
No, it's a shotgun.
Shotgun. He grabs it and she shoots off like 2 or 3 of his fingers.
Yep.
First damage we've seen like come off of Michael Myers, really ever.
Yeah, permanent damage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this one, his eye was also messed up.
Right.
Like they do show like little flashes of his eye that was messed up from when she stabbed it with the hanger in the first one. Yeah. Which they never addressed in any of the other ones. Like the original Halloween 2, his eyes are fine.
Well, that's not the end. But
well, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
When they do that, like the first kill of Halloween 2, they like zoom in on his face and you see his eyes popping out of that mask and they're both totally fine.
Right. And she, so Michael gets into the house and she has a showdown in her completely dark house. Very lit outside, but dark inside.
Right.
Going back and forth, sees Ray's body, some stuff somewhere.
In a closet, right?
In a closet.
On the top shelf of the closet.
Right. Dramatically, yes.
Right.
And they kind of have a little showdown. She gets stabbed in the abdomen and she falls off the balcony.
Mm-hmm.
He hears, I think, Allison then coming.
Yep.
And going, and her mom calls her. She goes in the basement. Michael looks over the balcony, and Laurie Strode's gone. Great callback. Great opposite of the original 1978 one.
Right.
So Laurie kind of disappears. Michael Myers is able to lift the island off its track, and Karen's acting like she's scared, blah, 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 even though she has a gun with her initials carved into it, just to lure him, and she's able to shoot him, like, in the neck or jaw area. And behind her, great lighting effect that once he's shot, Laurie's behind him, and it's like the fade in on her face, just like the mask the first time. Hits him, knocks him down the stairs, gets Allison and Karen out. Michael Myers wakes up, grabs Karen's leg, and then Allison gets a knife and starts stabbing him. And then they pull a lever, and I don't know if they are just pieces of steel pop out, and he gets trapped in the basement.
Yeah,
and
they look kind of like swords or something, but I think
Right.
it was just supposed to be metal, like
Yeah.
pieces of metal.
They said it's not a cage, it's a trap. Well, a cage
Yeah.
is a trap. Thanks.
Then
Then
it's a subset of trap.
right. So they're like, this has been the plan all along, and then she starts turning on heating elements everywhere and gas flowing through them. This
Right. I didn't get this whole delivery system. I didn't understand what was happening. Like, I get that you're putting gas everywhere, but if you have a heating element there, then the gas is immediately igniting, and it's not gonna fill up to be able to explode.
right.
Like, do you? I mean, yeah, you have to kind of, I guess, understand how gas works. Like, if it's burning as soon as it's coming out of the tube, it's not also filling up the room
Correct.
with gas.
Yeah, the heating elements should not be glowing.
Correct. And there was
At
also
all.
like, I don't know. The whole thing was just done by someone who doesn't understand how fire and gas works.
Right. So she Laurie Strode lights a flare and throws in there, and Michael's set ablaze. And we see
Right.
him.
But she like hit this button, right?
Yeah.
She like turned the knobs, and that's all the gas started shooting out. And then she hit a button, and they all lit on fire.
Yeah.
So they're now all like shooting flames, but again, it's gas. So it's just the gas is coming out of the tubes, but it's not lighting anything on fire because it's just shooting fire out.
Correct.
And then she drops the flare down there and it blows up. I'm like, those two things can't happen at the same time. It
Correct.
can't be shooting flame out of a pipe and also filling up the room with gas to be able to have an explosion. That doesn't make sense.
Correct.
Well,
She says, goodbye, Michael. And, Laurie was stabbed in the stomach, and then all of a sudden stuff starts to hit her harder. Maybe the adrenaline wore off. They get a hitchhiker.
She
and,
casually walked down the street. She
I know.
was fine.
and then they get picked up by a truck saying help. And then we see the basement's burning, but Michael's not standing in that spot, but we still hear him breathing. Movie end.
At the very end. That's like the
Post credits.
like the post credit is just him breathing.
Yeah. I mean, at this point in time, we knew this was going to be at least 2 movies. So we're like, okay, he's not dead. We get it.
Right.
So first thoughts for me, I didn't see this in theaters. But this was not my first time seeing it. I thought it was a pretty good reboot. I liked it, quite honestly. I thought it was good callbacks. I don't think it was as silly. I think it was closer to more in lines with Halloween and H2O because we have a badass Laurie Strode, right?
Well, I think she's more. This is a better rendition of Laurie Strode than H2O was. I think H2O was overall pretty weak. I mean, I didn't really like that movie in general. But yeah, I mean, I get they're both. At least she took the stronger route instead of the original Halloween 2, where she like all of a sudden became weak.
So we'll get to that one.
Yeah, we'll get to that. It was good. I mean, I did have my issues with, her being like this prepper, like that prepped and was ready for everything. That there was a whole lot of things that didn't make any fucking sense.
Right. We'll get into that lore.
Right.
But I mean, first off, this was your first time watching it, right?
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
I mean, it was good. It was good for, a revival or whatever you want to call it. Because it's not a full reboot because it doesn't go back into the beginning. But I mean, it right. retroactively takes out most of the other stuff.
I'll call it a revival / legacy.
Yeah.
Like
right.
not full on. Yeah. It's not a remake, but it's a revitalization of the franchise.
Right. I mean, yeah, they stayed true to it. As far as, Laurie Strode, I think it was realistic the way that she would behave and the way that, she kind of, was still preparing even 40 years later. I mean, yeah, an event like that would cause you to do that. And I thought it was interesting that, pushing that on your daughter is essentially going to push your daughter away, which is that,
right.
It was the same kind of thing, because like she obviously had never seen
Michael
or seen any danger at all.
Right.
She was just like preparing forever for something that never happened. So, her, however, how old she is, whatever, she's in her 30s, right? So like she's in her 30s and no attack has ever happened. Yeah, I can see her resenting her for making her live like that, because essentially living in a cage is what she was doing.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting. I thought that was good. Again, it was just odd how they had to remake new characters for stuff. Like the Officer Hawkins was totally new.
Right. I mean, there's obviously going to be new characters. We can't just have Laurie Strode. I mean, we could have, but yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a reboot / revival / legacy, because reboot is there are new characters, even though people lived throughout other of these, right? And stuff like that. Rewatch,
right.
though, I think this is great rewatchability. I've rewatched it since every year. It's in my rewatch list.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this one is a good movie overall. I think it's a good, it's a good Halloween movie. I mean, I kind of expected the podcasters to last a little longer because of how much focus they put on them in the beginning. Like the first, 15, 20 minutes of the movie, follows them pretty exclusively. Like it's and then all of a sudden they're just dead and offed in a terrible way. I thought one of them was going to survive, and somehow trying to survive the other one. And I thought that one guy was going to be like the new kind of Loomis.
He's British. He could have been. He understands the lore of Michael
Right. That's
Myers.
kind of what I thought they were going for. Like a kind of more modern rebooted Dr. Loomis. And then he just died. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, he looked like a younger Malcolm McDowell, quite honestly.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, I didn't quite understand how the dude, as Dr. Loomis in this timeline, I mean, it was dead for I don't know how many years, like 20 years.
Yeah,
at least they didn't specifically say how long, but he was Dr. Loomis was still his doctor, Michael's doctor for many years after the original incident, and then this other guy was
a student.
Was a student that studied under Dr. Loomis, and then after Dr. Loomis died, he specifically requested to be put as his doctor since he was already working with him and he was a close student of Dr. Loomis, and so they said, okay, so then he's exclusively been his doctor since then.
Right.
Now, he was like, oh, I want to see how he's like in the wild. I want to, introduce him back to Laurie Strode. Like, he could have done that at any time.
Yes. Why now?
Yeah, why now? I mean,
waiting for the transfer, I guess.
But he's his doctor. You could have easily just moved him.
Maybe Allison was 17.
I guess. I don't know. There's a lot of open-ended questions. I mean, again, every horror movie does. I'm not saying that it's I'm not trying to be nitpicky. I liked it overall.
Right.
I'm just saying there was a lot of plot holes that I saw.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good segue into we're going into the lore. Lore wise, they make a comment. I heard that he was, Laurie Strode's brother, and they make that offhand remark to show that they're not acknowledging Halloween 2.
Right.
And we'll get into my crazy theory at the end about that. I like that they took some elements, but they took other elements as well. And lore-wise, it's what I don't understand, and we discussed this offline multiple times, is if it was just those three people, because no one knew about the fourth body, that I don't feel Laurie Strode would be as big as a prepper as she was if nothing happened in 40 years.
I don't know, man. I mean, if you get attacked at that level, I mean, there are multiple ways of dealing with it, and one way is just constantly being prepared for it to happen again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is possible. I mean, again, she was like, drinking, and she obviously did not deal with this well.
Right.
And even 40 years later, she still has a hard time talking about it. She still has to like drink heavily when she's like thinking a lot about it. So like she obviously still hasn't processed it all the way, and I can see her focusing that energy into prepping.
Yeah.
Now the prepping, I'm using air quotes here. The prepping that she did, I thought was pretty weak, considering that she had 40 years to do it,
and she's still in Haddonfield.
Right. Well, I get that. If you are waiting for him to come back, I mean, I think the better thing would have been she should have bought the original Myers house.
Yes.
If she was really going to make it a trap, as she says in the original one, she should have bought the original Myers house and then made that a trap. Yes. That would have made more sense to me.
Yeah.
But again, like, okay, even after as soon as she finds out that bus crashed, right, and they show Michael's face on TV and his name. Okay, obviously it's faded out, so you can't see the face, but they did show it's obviously the same person that they were showing out of focus in the beginning with the podcasters. Yeah. So now at this point, she knows that he's escaped, and she's only walking around with the revolver.
Yes, that's not a plan.
If she had all these guns at home and she had all this big trap at home, why is she walking around with just a revolver?
Right.
Again, there's a lot of things like, okay, yeah, I get that you're saying that she's a prepper, but like a real prepper goes way overboard.
Right.
And she kind of sort of did in the house, did a lot of things that didn't make sense there too, but at least she did in the house.
Outside the house, it didn't make any sense.
Well, yeah, she had all those big lights and stuff, but she didn't turn them on until he was already in the house.
What were they? What were lights going to do? Make him not hide in the shadows outside?
Yeah. But so if you have cameras outside, you can see them coming. That's the point of having big ass lights on your house.
Right. She was a bad prepper. Let's face it.
Yeah, it was a bad prepper, and the whole trap thing didn't make any sense. Why would you try to trap him in the area with all your weapons?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. The whole thing was just ridiculous.
I don't disagree.
Again, the suspension of disbelief. I get all that kind of stuff. I enjoyed the moving outside of that. It just they're kind of big and glaring. I hate when those big things bother me when I'm watching something.
Like I said, I think if at least Halloween 2 happened, it would have made more sense for her to be the way she was. Why not? Realistically, in my opinion.
Again, I mean, people go through traumatic events and it affects them for the rest of their life. I mean, that happens all the time.
Right.
And that's, some people get attacked or assaulted and they'll, for the rest of their lives, even if they're in therapy, may never get over it.
Well,
some people just don't.
When we get to Halloween Ends, I'll explain more why I think it doesn't make sense.
All right. I mean, it's possible, it's not, but I mean, the way that she reacts when they want her to talk about stuff and that, she has to like drink and she's still uncomfortable talking about it, shit like that. You can tell she hasn't fully processed it. So,
yeah.
And in this movie, at the very least, yeah, she has not fully come to terms with this. And I think she channels that into her, prepping and getting ready. I think that's the only thing that keeps her even moderately sane is that she's preparing for him to come back.
Now, how do you feel of this doctor taking over for Loomis? Should we go into the theory of him in your theory section?
I mean, we can. I mean, he was, again, the thing that kind of struck me is like, why wait until now? If you're willing to kill a cop to let him go back to see Laurie Strode. Why didn't you plan something earlier?
Right.
You're his doctor. You've been his doctor for many years. You've been in that facility for how long? I'm sure you know how to sneak somebody out of there.
Right.
You could have very easily snuck him out, even handcuffed in the back of a van or whatever, if you really wanted him to meet Laurie. Or you could have just met with Laurie because he had never met her.
Right.
Like, why, if he was so interested in that, why wouldn't he have gone to Laurie and asked her, hey, can you please come here to talk to him? I want to see if we can get a reaction out of him.
Right.
I'm sure she would have, just to tell him to fuck off, right? Or
absolutely.
something, something like that. Or she might even try to sneak in a gun and shoot him. I mean, something, anything. Right. But I mean, I think that she would have gotten on board. Why didn't he do that? If he was willing to kill to be able to do that, why the hell did he wait so long?
Right.
And why the hell would he wait until that moment to stab a cop?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was, I don't know. I think he was a very, very poor, sub in for Loomis because he was really only in the movie for 2 minutes.
And then he gets killed by his patient.
Yeah. And then he gets killed and then that's it. He's just done.
Well, I mean, he puts on his mask for a while, trying to feel what it's like to be Michael Myers when he killed the guy. Right.
Right.
But yeah, it just maybe Haddonfield and Smith Girls have really bad psychologists. Let's go with that. It's a horrible institution.
But at least this guy again acted like a doctor. Like Loomis did not act like a doctor at all. Like this guy was like, oh yeah, we haven't gotten a reaction out of him. We've tried a whole bunch of stuff. He's been in therapy. We tried talking to him for years. He just doesn't talk. That kind of shit. But at least he's talking like a psychologist. The original Donald Pleasance Loomis was like, I don't believe for a second that he tried anything.
Right. So we'll get into the therapist psychologist thing in the theory section because I have some ideas on your theory. I want to hear your more so how it ties in. All right. So highlights for me for this one is the Laurie Strode badassdom. I think we finally got the final form of badass Laurie Strode.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, again, she's the strongest she's been in any of these movies to date, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on board with that. I like that.
And realistically, I feel like this is the brutality of this was pulled from the Rob Zombie Halloweens, and he kills a lot more. Realistically, he is more brutal. Yeah. And I think they pulled the element from. I think they pulled the element from Rob Zombie, and I think this is what Rob Zombie's movie could have been. Quite honestly,
well, I think Rob Zombie. Well, this is my opinion. I think Rob Zombie's is better than this.
Yeah, I'm just saying they could have taken this step. It could have been the 30 years later because that's when it came out, and kind of done the same thing, but in Rob Zombie's world.
You mean if Rob Zombie made this one as a sequel to the original instead of rebooting the original?
Yeah.
That's fair.
What about highlights for you?
Highlights for me is I like the the fact that he's more brutal, but the fact that, since he's been locked up for so many years, basically not talking and not doing anything, what has he been doing that whole time? And I think he's just been planning different ways to kill people and different things to do to them after they're dead. Right. And I think
he has enough time for that. Yeah.
Right. He had 40 years of not talking and staring at the wall to dream about nothing but killing people and doing terrible things to them. And I think that's why he's does the whole teeth thing. He's actually trying to mess with people to try to savor his kills now. To where in the original, he was just all about just let's get this done. Let's kill him and move on. And in this one, I think because he's had so long to think about it, I think now he savors it more. And then even after they're dead, he still wants to savor it. That's why he's doing weird stuff putting cutting holes in a sheet and putting it over the dead body. That's why he's pulling the teeth, and that's why he's making head-o-lanterns. You know what I mean? Because he's savoring the whole thing. And I think that's. Well, I mean, I like that. I think it makes more sense. At least we know what he's been doing for that long.
Well, I mean, he did it in the 1978 where he positioned P.J. Souls' character as Judith Meyer with the headstone. He was pretty dramatic there. So he had 15 years to think of those dramatic things.
Yeah, but I mean that was pretty light compared to a head-o lantern. You know?
Yeah, well, yeah. But he has an art for the flare, right?
Yeah, now he does
Yeah.
because he's had time to think about it.
Right.
Where in the 78, he was pretty much like, let's get this done.
Yeah.
Like he was going to work.
Low points for me, Ray, I think.
Poor Ray.
Yeah. And those two cops, like I said, I was expecting the stupid ass music to play again. And like, it's like weird ass conversations. It always seems to happen sometimes, horror movies. Like there's two cops in the truck and they always have weird ass conversations. And maybe that's supposed to be realistic, and maybe that probably happens because if we were sitting in the car together, we'd probably have stupid conversations too while waiting for something.
They're giving you a cool off.
Yeah.
Is what they're doing. Because if they just keep coming at you with kill, you get null to it. Right? You get numb. You become desensitized to it. So if they do like kill, and then they have like a nice sweet moment of two cops talking about your Vietnamese sandwiches
and peanut butter and jelly, yeah.
Right, all the kinds of stuff like that. You got like a good 5-minute cool off period, and then they're like, what's that? And then they go kills again. But at least you get a cool off period. You get that little comic relief in there. You get that little breather, right? So you're not on the edge of your seat the whole time. You get to relax for a minute.
Yeah.
I think that, every horror movie has to have these little cool off periods in between.
And also low point for me is Cameron. He's an idiot. I am sick of boyfriends being portrayed as giant douchebags in horror movies.
I mean, to be fair, if you play statistics, it's true.
I mean, yeah.
Again, are there some guys that wouldn't do that? Sure.
Yeah.
But if you play statistics, it's more likely that they do than they don't.
Oh, so, I'm going to go with Cameron and his friend Oscar. Oscar is awful.
Yeah, this is high school, man.
I know.
People are terrible in high school. High school, like, you get these, like, hormones that are, like, running in the red, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was no sexual assault in there, so at least we got off without that.
Right. Well, Oscar's talking about, they were feeding me guacamole sexually. I'm like, come on. That's stupid.
Well, it's stupid, but it's supposed to be comic relief.
But
again, if you're, like, a virginal high school boy, right? And like, you see a bunch of cheerleaders doing a sexy dance at a party and you've been drinking. Yeah, you're going to get all jazzed up.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right. And then they're like, she broke up with her boyfriend and now she wants to walk home with me. What does that mean? Again, when you're, running hormones in the red, of course it means she wants to be with you. If you're just a normal person, it's like, she probably just doesn't want to be alone. Right.
Right.
She just wants to be with a safe person and just get home. That's it.
Yeah. All right. What about low points for you? Other low points, the poor prepping crap.
Yeah, just the prepping. Oh, okay. How about the selection of guns that she had in that basement was pretty weak, man.
Small ass guns, pistols and rifles.
40 years. Yeah. I mean, she had a bunch of handguns, but again, they go for the little bitty Saturday Night Special handguns. Okay, if you've been prepping for 40 years and you know how to shoot guns, you know what was a good gun, what's a crap gun. If you got a little, snub nose 38, it's not going to do jack.
Right.
If you want a revolver, get like a 357 or a 44, something that's going to actually do damage. Like there's no assault rifles in there at all.
Right.
None. You could easily in Illinois buy an AR-15 at any gun shop, right?
Right.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
You can get them. And like, she was like bolt action rifles and shotguns without stocks. What are you doing? Like, this is not like, these are not prepper weapons.
I mean,
again, it was like they went to a gun store and it's like, what's the cheapest you got? And that's what they put on that shelf.
And to your point, she saw Loomis shoot him 6 times with his gun that wasn't good, right. And she would know that that's not going to stop him. So yeah, I agree with you. Again, yeah.
Get some high caliber stuff. Get an assault rifle that's going to put him down by force alone, even if it's not killing him.
Yeah.
But the physics of those bullets hitting you that hard and that fast and that many is going to knock you down.
Oh yeah.
Like if you get shot with a 357, even if you get shot in the hand, you're probably going to fall down because there's a lot of force behind it.
Right.
Yeah, and again, I was very disappointed with her choice in weapons. And I was, the whole prepper thing overall, but specifically the low point is that gun selection was pretty weak.
Right.
And like, yeah, the one that she went, oh, this is for power and accuracy. And it was like a Henry repeating rifle. It's like, this is from the late 1800s. Like, even something in this century, anything would have been better than that.
Yeah.
Like, you can pick up an AK for like the same price as that, probably even less.
Yeah, that's fair. So let's get into our ratings of this one. I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10 for Butcher Knives. What about you?
I will give this one.
You were a 9 for the first one.
I'm right on the fence. I'm gonna 6.5.
6.5. All right.
Yeah. So I was in between a 6 and a 7.
There you go.
And I didn't know, but I know you broke the rule by having a 0.5 earlier, so I'm going to use a 0.5.
It's just a smaller Butcher Knife. That's all.
That's right. It's a half a Butcher Knife.
Right.
It's like one of the little bitty ones that he had at first.
Right. The knife envy he had.
Right.
Which is fair. He likes knives.
Right. So yeah, 6.5 Butcher Knives out of 10.
All right. So I only went down 2. You went down 2.5. The first one. Okay. All right. So do you want to take us into Halloween Kills then?
Halloween Kills. Okay. So it starts right after the first one ends. Well, this 2018 one ends. And now Laurie Strode is suffering from life-threatening injuries.
Yep. Even
though she was fine a moment ago. Now, the same truck that they were sitting in where they were all fine and breathing a sigh of relief, and now there's blood and panic everywhere. And as they're driving down the street, they see fire trucks going towards the house, and they're all like, no, let them burn, let them burn. So they go off. They're going off to the hospital. So then they show the firefighters going in the house and spraying water everywhere. Like, oh, what's going on? Is anybody here? They don't see anybody. One firefighter falls through the floor. And of course, while he's down there, the garage door that was used to hold the guns in goes up. And Michael Myers is there, and he's relatively unscathed, except for like one side of his mask is like melty-ish.
Yeah. And
like the hair is all, curled up. And yeah, it just kills that firefighter. And then another guy is, that firefighter set off his little like help me alarm, whatever it is.
Yeah. Beacon.
Panic alarm.
Beacon, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So then another guy is like, sees the hole he fell into, and he's like, oh, let me help you up. And of course, Michael Myers, gets helped up out of the hole, and assuming he kills him, we don't see that kill.
Right.
And then in true Michael Myers fashion, of course, he walks out the front door. Now he has the firefighters, like, the tool they use for like, breaking boards and all that kind of stuff. So it's like half pry bar, half like axe looking thing.
Pickaxe, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So he walks out the front door, and there's like, we'll say 12 to 15 firefighters and first responders and EMTs and cops and stuff out there, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
And he just starts killing them all. Like, he just slaughters them all with this tool. We just see, death after death after death. And then that's it. Apparently he walks away. We don't see the complete annihilation of all of them, but that's what's going on. So then we kind of flash to Hawkins, the cop who got stabbed by the doctor in the first movie.
Yeah.
He has survived. And now he's in like the same hospital room as Laurie, because Laurie, had got her surgery for her stab wound, and now he got surgery for his thing.
Yeah, and Cameron, the boyfriend, found him.
Right. Yeah. As he was like walking and trying to call everybody.
Right.
Yeah, he found him, so they called him. He's in the hospital.
Yeah.
And then they do like a flashback sequence. So where he's saying like, it should have been me. Because Laurie was saying,
I created the evil.
It.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. She was like, yeah, we ended it. And he was like, oh yeah, well, it should have been me. And so now he goes to flashbacks, and now we see the original 1978 version of what happened instead of Halloween 2.
Yes.
And in this point is like, I guess he escapes.
He gets off when he gets off the ground, when he's missing from the ground, he heads home. Right.
But they show a scene where he like sees him walking down the street or like cutting through an alley.
Yeah, going from where he fell off the balcony making a path
Right.
back to his house.
Right. So then they do that whole thing. So that they all these other cops like, okay, split up, we'll go find him. So him and his partner up, and they're the ones that get to his house.
Yeah.
So they go in the house, and the one partner goes upstairs and he goes to the window where apparently this is where Michael Myers always stared out the window, and he sees footprints on the floor,
Judith's room.
the dust. Right. Which is Judith's room. So he's like, oh, somebody must have been standing here. And then of course, Michael Myers comes flying out of the closet. And they start wrestling and strangling each other. And the one guy, Hawkins, this is his 1978.
He's a rookie,
babyface version of him. Comes running up the stairs, and he sees Michael's got him in like a headlock. And he's like, they're shuffling around, and so he decides he's going to shoot him. And he shoots his partner in the neck.
Yes.
Instead of shooting Michael. And then Michael kind of gets away, and he's got a choice to make whether he goes after Michael or whether he goes after his partner, and he goes to his partner. And then that's when his partner is, dying essentially, and, say, oh, did we get him? And he's like, oh yeah, we got him. So then, it shows Michael walk out the front door, and there's just cops all over the place. And they arrest him.
And who's there?
Apparently, who's there? Oh, sorry. Dr. Loomis, a lookalike of Dr. Loomis is there.
Yeah.
Like asking him if he killed someone else.
Right. And we don't hear the answer at that point.
Right. We don't hear the answer then, but then do they do it? No, is it later on in the movie?
Later on in the movie, yeah.
Later on in the movie. Okay.
Yeah.
So it cuts back so that he shot his own partner. And then eventually Michael gets arrested by the police, and then that's what happens instead of Halloween 2.
Right. And this is where we get the fifth person that was killed.
Right. Yeah. So that's the fifth one.
Yeah. Retroactively adding a body.
Right. So then we cut to a bar, where we see the black couple. We did see them in the first movie for a second. While Michael was walking down the street, and they were getting in a car and leaving. They were dressed as like a doctor and a sexy nurse
to go to the bar.
Right, to go to the bar, essentially. So now we're like seeing them in this second movie because it's the same night, right?
Yep.
So they're now sitting there, and it's like amateur night at this bar.
Yeah.
And so they're like, there's these people sitting behind them. They're telling, they're getting all crazy, and they're telling them to keep it down. They're getting all annoyed. And then they say, oh, we're bringing on our next person. And they're bringing on the next person. It's Anthony Michael Hall, and he's playing Tommy, who is the kid in the original 1978 that Laurie Strode was babysitting for.
Correct.
So now he's, this is 40 years later, and now he's saying that all of the people who survived the original attack are all here kind of celebrating, right?
Yes.
So it's Tommy is there, Lindsay, who was the other little girl that Annie was watching originally. And then Laurie ended up watching after that. But they were the two that went screaming out of the house in the very first movie. The nurse that was with Dr. Loomis, in the very, very beginning, that got attacked in the car.
Yep.
She did come back in the second one, but again, the second one isn't canon in this version of it. But she still, exists because she was in that very first thing in the car. And then we have this new character.
Well, she also came back in H2O.
Oh, did she?
She was the nurse that died. She's taking care of Dr. Loomis.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. I didn't realize it was the same one.
Yeah.
Whatever. So she's back.
Yeah.
And then we have this new character, Lonnie, who they show like another flashback to 1978 to where Michael Myers is walking down the street, and this kid, essentially like fell down on the ground and was like, oh no, don't hurt me. And then when he opened his eyes, Michael Myers was gone.
Yes. He's a survivor.
So he's a survivor because Michael Myers walked up to him and then he didn't kill him. So now he's a survivor.
Yes.
Which, again, this did not happen in the original 1978 Halloween. This
retroactive
is
survivor.
Flashback, right? Made a flashback for this movie. So that's the team of original survivors of the thing. So Tommy goes on to tell the whole story about, essentially recaps the 1978 Halloween movie.
Yes.
Because they don't know about any of the other events that happened.
Correct. Still, those are events are going on. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because that stuff happened already, but hasn't been reported on.
Right.
So that they kind of cut out on that point. And then they show them leaving, right?
Yeah,
they go out to go
on
outside.
the news report, they hear that 2 inmates have escaped. One being Peter Pettigrew, the guy with your penguin, and Michael Myers.
Right.
And then
so then they're like, oh, everybody should go home. And then so the black couple go outside to go in their car, and then when they, of course, the lady goes in the car because the guy forgot something. So she goes to start the car, and there's somebody in the back seat. So she freaks and runs back and says that Michael Myers is in her car.
Yes.
So then Tommy gets a bat from behind the bar, and then he's going to go, hit Michael Myers with the bat. So he runs up to the car. We don't see who's in the car. But Tommy starts swinging at the car. He hits the window and the hood or something.
Yeah.
And the car takes off, and it ends up crashing across the street.
Yep.
And then there's the car's on fire or whatever, but they go there, and then whoever was driving is now gone. And you very clearly, as the car was driving away, and I saw this as an audience member, so I'm assuming all the other people that were staring at the car could also have seen it. It was very clear to see that the person in the car was all wearing all white.
Correct.
So I know they didn't know what Michael Myers was wearing at the time, but us as the audience, it's very clear that this is not Michael Myers.
Correct.
But anyway, so then that whole thing happens, and then that's when the Tommy and everybody decide that they need to go, kind of figure out what's going on, and they need to search the neighborhood to see, if they can find what's going on.
Evil dies tonight.
Well, that's not yet. That's when they get to the hospital.
Oh no! When they're leaving the bar, Marion says that first. I caught that on the rewatch.
Okay, whatever. Yeah, so they decide to do that. So they say they're going to go around the town, but they end up kind of converging on the hospital because that's where all the whole town is going to, because that's where Laurie Strode is, and that's where the cop is, and I guess that's where all the victims are. So they're trying to get answers.
Yeah.
So I guess that's why they all go to the hospital.
Yeah.
The town's all on alert, so they basically put out these alerts saying that, everybody needs to stay inside and lock your doors and all that kind of stuff. And at this point in time is when, we're kind of all converging on the hospital at this point. And then Allison and, Cameron, her boyfriend, comes back.
Yep.
And she immediately forgives him.
Yes.
And they kind of sort of reconcile, and you find out that he is Lonnie's son.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that Lonnie's son.
Lonnie's son. Cameron's Lonnie's son, yes.
Right. So he's Lonnie's son, so that was their thing. And so Lonnie's there and Tommy's there. And then they all decide that they're gonna hold on. This is where they go
through the hospital first.
Right. Is this where the other guy shows up at this point, or is that later? No, it has to be here now, right? Yeah, because they leave after this.
Yes, they leave after this, yes.
Right. Yeah, so they're all, in this place, and they're all kind of like talking about how, it's confirmed that, he's back. We got to do something about it. It finds out that the guy that's the the guy that's the hospital security guard is the old sheriff.
Brackett. Yep.
Brackett. Who does not look good.
No, I mean, it is him, though. It is the same actor.
Yes, it is the same actor. I'm just saying he does not look good.
Correct.
It looks like it pains him to stand up. Like he does. Well, he's not looking very healthy.
Yeah.
But he is there, and he does have some lines. He's obviously he can still talk and stuff.
He killed my daughter Annie 40 years ago. I should have shot him then. Couldn't tell his wife.
Right.
And they have a flashback of. Here's the funny part: they have a flashback of Annie's death on the bedsheet from Halloween 2. Was when he sees that Annie's been killed. That was in Halloween 2.
Oh, right.
So they have a flashback to Halloween 2 that didn't happen.
But it was a scene in Halloween 2 that would have happened regardless.
Yes.
But yes, it was from the Halloween 2
yes.
movie. Yes. Yes. So they're all getting all whipped up into a frenzy. Evil dies tonight. We're all gonna kill him. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, that Michael Myers has been terrorizing. Terrorizing the town for 40 years.
Right. Yeah. Even though he's been locked up
for 40
years. Right. And then all the other incidents that happen in all the other movies of what they could be referring to.
Right.
Did not happen.
Yeah.
In this timeline. So they all decide to do that. And then this is when the other, the penguin,
yep,
inmate comes in trying to get help
He's
because
saying,
he was in that car accident. Yeah, and he's got like a big cut on his forehead. Yeah, like he obviously hurt himself in that crash, and he went to the hospital to try to get help. Yeah, so he walks in and he's trying to say help me, but everybody's like screaming. So that one lady sees him, and he's obviously in a Smith's Grove sanitarium inmate like outfit, right? So I believe again, everybody's like, oh, so it's Michael Myers. So they all decide to like chase him, and they're like basically like lynching him and chasing him all the way through this hospital, through all the different floors and all this stuff. And then Laurie Strode's daughter decides that she's going to try to help him and save him.
Well, because once Laurie, the sheriff, Karen, even Tommy at this point see a look at his face, and they all realize it's not Michael Myers. And Karen goes, telling Tommy to stop. He's like, I can't. The mob's too riled up, which he caused.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he was the start of it.
Right.
Yeah, but he can't stop.
All the people that would know Michael Myers realize that's not Michael Myers, but the mob doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode comes out of her, because she's like post surgery at this point.
Right.
And she like comes out to try to stop them. She even like knees somebody in the face or something.
Well, yeah, she gave her a shot of something in her ass. We don't know what. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
No. Jam. Okay, I'm good.
Again, she should have been dead or at the very least asleep and unconscious.
Yes.
Because she doesn't know what it is, and she filled the whole syringe up with it. Like if that was morphine, you'd be dead.
Right.
But anyway, yeah. So she does that. She self-medicates and is still somehow conscious.
Yeah.
And yeah, she goes to like try to, knee somebody in the face, and it like looks like she ripped open her stitches or whatever. So she can't do anything.
Yeah.
So then her daughter decides that she's going to stop him.
Yeah.
So she like leads him into like this area where she locks the doors on both ends of this area.
So people can't.
She said she's going to. Right. So the people can't get through. She said she's going to protect him. But then the people come up and they're essentially just like going crazy. They're like smashing the doors and, breaking the windows and breaking the door down and stuff. And so this dude, like at first he grabs his fire extinguisher like he's going to fight. And then he just immediately changes his mind and smashes out the window. And then he like just jumps and just kills himself.
Yes.
So then, they all kind of realize,
that wasn't him.
Yeah, that wasn't him. We're the monsters here.
Right. Something to point out.
So anyway,
well, okay. So we have to jump while this is happening. We see Michael Myers in his house. But that's going on at the same time. So we know as audience it's not him. But before that, how Tommy got to the hospital was Marion, Lindsay, and the black couple are finding kids that are wearing the Halloween 3 masks, saying there's a guy trying to play peekaboo with them. And the black couple both die the woman dies in a stupid, hilarious way.
Yeah, okay, yeah. She tries to she's shooting at Michael Myers with like basically point blank range.
Right.
With a Desert Eagle.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a hard gun to shoot. It's a powerful gun. I mean, even we don't know what caliber it is, but the weakest caliber that gun is a 357. Okay, so that is a very powerful gun, and she is shooting it obviously without the strength or the accuracy to be able to hit anything with it. But even at point blank range, you should be able to hit something. She fires 7 times at point blank range and completely misses all of those times. And then as she gets close, Michael Myers kicks the door open on the car.
And she shoots herself.
It hits her hand and she shoots herself. It is probably the funniest part of the entire movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's hilarious.
And Marion dies. We had the flashback of the hand coming through the window and grabbing her. She dies. And then Lindsay is in there and she finds, as good school ground or parks are, loose bricks laying in the playground and hits Michael and she hides. But then Tommy pulls up, sees all the death and takes her to the hospital.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, I thought that happened after the hospital.
No.
But yeah, that's why they ended up at the hospital.
Yes.
Right. But yeah, the problem I have with this scene is, one, they're all supposed to be looking for stuff, right?
Yeah.
So they stop the car. The person who's driving the car, who has no weapons, goes alone to go talk to these children.
Yep.
The people with the gun and everyone else just sits in the car waiting.
Yes.
Okay. It just pure stupidity.
Right.
Like, why would you go by yourself, one? And two, why would somebody not give her the gun at least?
Right.
Anyway, but yeah, and as they casually mention, we don't know how to shoot guns.
Right.
But the two people with guns don't know how to shoot them, are waiting in the car while she walks off by herself.
Right.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, because while this hospital scene is going on, we, the audience, see something else where we have Big John and Little John.
That's later.
No, that's in the same time frame.
It might be in the time frame, but it doesn't actually happen until after they go back.
Yeah.
After the whole hospital.
Yeah. So, do you want to get into that then? With Big John and Little John?
I will.
All right.
But yeah, so I mean, but that's the other second problem I have is that Tommy shows up after giving them the speech of "Don't go alone," shows up by himself alone.
Yep.
I mean, just
yeah.
They don't even. They literally just gave him the rules 2 minutes ago, and now he doesn't follow.
Correct.
So then we have the whole hospital thing and the lynching, the guy jumping to his death, and then they essentially at the end of that scene go like, "Oh no." Anyway, and they just move on.
We're the monsters.
Yeah, we're the monsters. That sucks. Move on.
See ya.
Right. Like, done. And then we go to Michael Myers' home, which is now the home of a lovely couple of Big John and Little John.
Yes.
Big John, I don't know. Little John is Michael McDonald, he's
awesome.
From,
I love everything he does.
Yeah, he's a fantastic actor. But anyway, so they're playing like a couple, and they're like, looks like they're having a nice evening in, right?
Charcuterie board,
yeah. They're getting preparing to like watch a movie and stuff.
Yeah.
And they like some kids are trying to mess with them, saying like they ate like a razor blade.
Yeah.
Just to trick them to steal their candy, whatever. Those are the kids that end up getting killed later.
Yes.
The kids that get the kids with the mask are the one that were playing in the park.
Yeah.
Later on. Anyway. And those were the masks from
Halloween 3. Yep.
Yeah, all three of them: the jack-o'-lantern, the skull, and the witch.
Yes.
So then they go back in the house, and then the door is open in the back, and he's like, "Oh, was there more of them? Did they sneak in through the back door?" So he goes and checks. Or no, that was banging. Sorry, he was banging on the back door. So he goes and checks that there's nobody there, and then there's banging on the front door. So they go and they check, and there's nobody there, and then they look back at the back door, and it's open, and there's like blood on the wall.
Right, pretty high up.
So at this point. Yeah, so they're like, at this point, they're like, somebody else is in the house.
This isn't a child.
Right, yeah, this is not a child. Someone is in our house. So they both pick up knives, and they're like searching around. And it was adorable as they're searching the house. They keep saying,
John,
like, Big John, Little John. They're like calling back to each other.
They split up.
As they're searching. Yeah, but they're split up. But at least they're like calling each other out so they know like that they're still around. At least they're doing that.
Right.
So then, Big John goes in the bedroom. Michael comes out and like stabs him in the armpit.
That looks painful.
But, I was like, that does not look pleasant at all. And then as he's like, realizing he just got stabbed in the armpit, like through his chest, and then Michael grabs his head and then pops out his eyes as he's squeezing his head. Like you see his eyes come out. And then
stuff coming out of the eyes as he's squeezing the head. Yeah.
So it's not good. So then, of course, Little John calls out Big John. He's not answering. So he knows something's wrong. So he goes up to check it out. And then they don't actually show. Well, no, he gets
because Michael is standing and where he's looking out the window is Judith's room.
Right.
So he's looking over Haddonfield. And then he gets interrupted by Little John.
Right. Yeah. So then he gets stabbed and then just kind of cut out.
Yeah.
And at this point, this is when
Lonnie,
Allison, and Cameron are looking around, and they decide to go. Well, they're looking at a map, and they're seeing like where these attacks are happening, and they figure out that he's going home.
Right. It was the straight line from Laurie's compound to the Myers house.
Right. Yeah. So instead of like calling everyone else and telling them where they're going and not what they figured out, they just go on their own.
Yep.
And then of course they immediately break their rule again. So we're like, oh yeah, we're all going to go check it out, right? They all have guns and stuff. And Lonnie gets there and he goes, okay, you guys wait here. I'm going to go check it out by myself.
Don't come in.
Right. Yeah. Specifically, don't come in. Just sit here and wait, which is, again, why do you bother having these other people with you if you're not going to have them as backup?
Yeah.
Just leave them at the hospital. Anyway. So he goes in, they're like 3 seconds later, they hear a gunshot and they don't hear anything else. So then, Cameron and Allison go in to try to, find out what's going on. They find, Big John and Little John dead in the room. And it looks like Little John lived long enough to drag Big John's body into another room and put on like a record, which is probably like their song or something. I'm guessing
they were playing old spooky records.
Well, Big John was playing old spooky record at the beginning, but this is a different song. I'm guessing it was like their song, or at least his favorite song, whatever it was. Because the Big John was probably already dead at that point. So he just kind of like lays down with Big John's head in his lap and obviously just died then. Because then you can see like there's multiple knives sticking out of him. Yeah. So they, instead of trying to help him, they pull a knife out of him. I don't know why.
Because you always take a knife out of a body.
Well, but they already have guns. It's like, why do you need this knife that's already been used as a murder weapon?
Because you always take a murder weapon out of a body to use. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So then they're doing that, and of course they immediately split up again because that's what you do. So they split up. Michael Myers comes out and essentially just beats the crap out of Cameron. I mean, he gets it bad.
Oh yeah.
He's getting beat up. Like she's at the bottom of the stairs. Well, she gets thrown over the stairs.
She got stabbed in the leg.
Yeah. Well, she got thrown down the stairs and that like broke her leg or
something like that. Yeah.
Injured her leg, whatever it was. Yeah. So she wasn't able to climb back up the stairs. So you just had to watch him beat Cameron to death. I mean, like he was like just, smashing him up against the railing and the wall and all kinds of stuff. And then like he's obviously unconscious, but he's probably still alive at this point. Yeah. And then she's like trying to goad him into coming down the stairs because, with her hurt leg, she can't go up the stairs. So then he's like slowly walking down the stairs and he stops when he gets to his head and he just snaps it. So, I mean, like he could have lived up until that point. After that point, there's no way he's dead. His head is completely turned.
Oh,
yeah. So he goes down and she tries to like fight and she gets like immediately knocked down. And then her mom comes in and like essentially like saves her.
Stabs him with a pitchfork.
Right, yeah, stabs him with a pitchfork. And then pretty much just takes his mask off. And then is like, oh, you want your mask? Come follow me. Come get me.
Kill me instead. Even though she stabbed him, kicked him his head against the stairs a couple of times. And then instead of continuing to do stuff.
Right. Or instead of keeping the pitchfork, she immediately tosses it aside. Anyway, whatever. So she grabs his mask, like, oh, come get it. And so she runs through like, across the street, runs through the backyard of those houses to the next street over. And then as he gets there, he sees his mask, like, in the middle of the street. And she's like, oh, come over here. And so he walks in the middle of the street. And then that's when, car headlights turn on and other cars pull up. And now it's like Tommy Doyle and all of the people that were searching the neighborhood for him are now all here. And they're all ready to, get vengeance on Michael Myers.
Does what dies tonight?
Well, yeah.
Evil dies.
Evil dies tonight.
Yes.
So they all get out and it's like, this, I don't know, ragtag crew. I don't know.
Yes. Hockey sticks, 4x4s, and iron.
Right. Like one guy has a gun, I think.
Yeah.
Which is funny. I mean, this happens all the time in movies, and it always like annoys the shit out of me. If a bunch of people are standing in a circle, don't shoot at the guy in the middle. You know what I mean? Because if you're standing in a circle, even if you hit the guy you're aiming at, the bullet's probably going to go through it and hit somebody on the other side. Like if you're going to shoot someone, you stand in a line and you shoot the other way, right? You don't stand in a circle and then try to shoot at the thing in the middle because you're going to shoot your own people. But of course, every movie this happens and nobody ever gets shot. But so the one guy, they're beating the crap out of him. They get him down on the ground,
and then
it looks like he's not.
And then we get like a voiceover from Laurie saying that he's fed by anger and hatred.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The more people he kills, the more powerful he gets.
So we get like a supernatural.
Right, yeah. This supernatural element comes in at this point, which has not been suggested at all, but now it does.
Yes.
So he basically, I don't know if he was like supposed to like psychically hear this or know this, but basically he gets like his, movie second wind at this point.
Gets his mojo back.
Right. right, where he just like stands up and just kind of throws everybody off, and then just starts, annihilating everybody
one by one.
He's repeating
because they only attack one by one.
Well, of course, I mean you can't all rush at him at once. So he's basically repeating the fireman fight,
right?
Where he's just demolishing everybody, and it's assumed that everyone dies because
Brackett dies. He gets his throat sliced.
Yeah,
the cop.
Right.
Tommy. Dies.
Well, I'm just saying. I'm assuming all of the people that were on the street
are dead.
Died. Yeah. Right. And then, like, Karen, instead of watching all this, well, no, she gives him a good stab in the back when he's down.
Right. And then she walks away.
Because
Tommy says, don't worry, Karen, we got this.
Right. And so then she goes back to Michael Myers' house and then goes and stands in the window that he normally stood in to look out the window.
Right.
And so then, they show, like, Michael Myers basically killing everybody. And they cut away before he kills absolutely everybody, but it's just kind of assumed that he kills everyone.
Right.
And then the last scene of the movie is he pops up behind Laurie Strode's daughter and kills her.
Right.
Stabs her, kills her, movie over.
Well, and then he's staring out the window, and then Laurie's looking out the window, and it's like they're looking at each other from across Haddonfield, setting up the final showdown.
Somewhere out there, right?
Yeah.
That's the same thing. Yeah. They're both looking at the same moon.
Exactly. And then just ends. Which is weird.
Yep. Yeah, on a nice positive note.
Well, I mean, he sneakily went through the back door while there's cops and paramedics in the front of the house.
Of course.
And then Karen, for every reason, went in to look out the window.
Well, again, it's back and forth as to whether he decides to show himself or hide in the shadows, because he does both in this movie.
Right.
Which, in every other movie, he's always done the sneakier thing. Right?
Correct.
I mean, he might not have succeeded in his sneaky thing, but at least he tries the sneaky thing. He's not dumb enough to walk into a group of cops.
Right.
But apparently in this movie, he can.
So what were your first thoughts on this?
I was just, like, increasingly annoyed as the movie kept going on, of just, like, how ridiculous these scenes are, and how, like, they're just not following any of their own rules.
Yeah.
I mean, I think... All right. Again, it was just, I was just increasingly getting like upset. Like, come on, like every time, like every, like I had to stop it and take a break a couple times because I had to stop myself from doing other things because I was getting very annoyed with this movie. Yeah, it was very. I mean, so yeah, as I was moving it, as I was watching it, I was just getting more and more annoyed as I was going along.
I mean, that's fair. This wasn't my first time seeing it. First thought, yeah, there was definitely gaping plot problems, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
On the rewatch, it's the Halloween 2, essentially, of the reboot franchise, because it's the same night. So, like I said, it's going to be in my rewatch list. Do I get annoyed by some of these things? Yeah, I do. But, I mean, watching these so close together, you see the black couple, you see elements, because Lonnie's mentioned in the first movie, but not seen. Right?
Right.
But really my first thoughts were the retroactive body count, the retroactive legacies were my problem with it. Those were my first thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, and again, some of it is like, it's okay. Like the whole cop thing, that did happen after the first movie, right?
Yeah.
But like the whole Lonnie thing, that would have had to happen before the end of the first movie.
Yes.
So like they're adding
legacies.
Scenes. Right. For no reason.
Unnecessarily.
I mean, they could have easily put anybody else in that role. Like you could have said, "Oh, this is another kid that was our friend," or anything. It doesn't matter. Well, you have to like go back in time to like make up a scene.
Well, Lonnie could have. I think he mentioned that he gave Tommy crap, so he could have just been one of the bullies that knocked Tommy down in the first one when he smashed his pumpkin.
Right.
He didn't have to retroactively go back and introduce a backstory to him. He's just a new character.
Right. Right. Yeah, something. I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking.
So are you going to rewatch this?
Probably not.
Okay. So it's on my rewatch list. It'll be there. It's okay-ish.
Like I said, I mean, the first one in this trilogy is not bad. I mean, it's a decent movie. Like I would watch it again. This one, I don't think so. It's so annoying to me. Like there's some movies that people do so annoying things that I just can't. I have a hard time getting through it.
Yeah.
Like basically like any M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Oh.
I have a hard time getting through because there's just ridiculous choices made in the middle of the movie where you're like, what?
Yeah.
And I just can't get over it. Most people don't, focus on those things, but I hyper focus on stuff that doesn't make any sense.
Right. So lore for this though.
Yeah.
Obviously the whole evil dies tonight, that he's fed by murder, he's fed by hatred, and we get more of a supernatural element to it. Like we've seen him take damage, but he took a decent amount of damage.
Oh yeah, it took a decent amount of damage, and the thing, I mean, I guess you can call it lore, but I just, one of the things I don't like about this movie is they just kind of like Mary sued him to be this like unstoppable killing machine,
right?
So we're like he was always supposed to have some element of humanity to him,
right?
So like in the first one, he gets his fingers blown off, like that doesn't happen to an unstoppable killing machine,
right?
Like, I mean, obviously he's singular focused on one thing, and that's murder, and that's scary. And, somebody can be extremely dangerous when they do that, but he's still technically human. And this one basically like takes that human element away. Like this guy is just, some supernatural, monster killing machine that can kill, just massive groups of 20 people.
Half
like
his age.
Nothing. Right.
Well,
yeah, just like it's nothing.
Did you notice that he taped up his shot off fingers? Like he administered like healing stuff to him, which would show that he's human, but this is in the middle of him getting beat to crap, and then all of a sudden getting stronger by anger and fear. And
right.
Like what, he's never attended to wounds ever.
Right.
And also now he has. I'm assuming it's just a way to tape down the fingers for the movie.
I'm just saying, like, okay, if you're going to open the movie with him just like walking into a group of people that can clearly see him and just fight them in the open like that, why does he bother sneaking around for the rest of the movie?
Why did he bother stopping for the cops in the flashback?
Right.
If he's able to do that 40 years before that, he probably could have taken those cops.
Right.
He let himself get arrested.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like this movie, it goes back and forth. It doesn't make sense. It's like nobody like laid out all of this stuff and said, "Hey, isn't it weird that he does this and this and this at the same time?" Like, no, nobody cares.
Yeah.
He's just this Mary Sue killing machine that can do whatever they feel like that he can do at that point in time.
Well, and how he survives a fire, he went essentially into a fireproof area. Why would you have a fireproof area when your plan is to set the thing on fire?
Well, like I said, if your plan is to trap somebody in the basement, why would you keep your guns down there? What are you thinking?
Right.
I mean, yeah, he hasn't used a gun previously, but that was it. Like their only experience at that time is he murdered 3 teenagers with a knife.
Yeah.
They don't know that if he was given a gun, if he would use it or not.
Right.
They don't know that.
If he knew how to drive, he can shoot a gun.
Right. Ugh.
All right. So what are highlights for you in this movie?
Let's see. Highlights in this movie. I did like a lot of the throwbacks that they did in this one. Like I like that the Sheriff Beckett was there. I like that, Tommy, it wasn't the same actor, obviously, but that Tommy was brought back. I mean, the nurse was brought back. Is Lindsay's not the same actress?
Oh, that's exactly the same actress.
Okay, I was going to say, like,
Kyle
I
Richards.
assume so. Yeah, because usually when they look, kind of like a little rough around the edges like that, usually that means, like I said, that sheriff was not looking good. Like, he was sitting down for most of his scenes because I'm pretty sure it hurt to stand up. Like, he did not look all that good. It was great having him there. He could still talk and act. I mean, don't get me wrong. He was great in that. It just looked like physically he would have a hard time with the role.
But I mean, yeah, they brought back, 3 actual legacy actors.
Right.
I was hoping Kyle
like,
Richards would be pointing across the dinner table yelling, and there'd be a cat yelling back, because that's her. That's her in the meme from the Real Housewives.
Is that really her?
That's her. That the meme is her. Yes.
I did not know that. I mean, of course, I've seen the meme. I did not know that.
That's her.
Who is she married to?
I don't know.
Is she the famous one, or is her husband the famous one?
Right. I think she is. But it's like I mean, Paul Rudd was in talks to come back to play Tommy Doyle, which would have been a good throwback to him being Tommy Doyle.
Well, okay, but I mean, can you see Paul Rudd being like a badass like that?
I honestly think if Paul Rudd was Tommy Doyle would have been written differently.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I don't think that would have been the same character. Like, I can't see Paul Rudd swinging a bat, going like, "Come on!" I can't see that.
Right,
I just can't see it.
Come on, guys! Evil dies tonight.
Right? Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Whatever. I don't see that happening, but I did like this stuff. Or, like the masks from Halloween 3. Like, they even had the silver shamrock button on them and everything. I mean, they were the exact same masks.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff. They had the kind of flashback with the nurse that was attacked in the car in the beginning. Like they actually showed Michael slapping the window exactly how he did in the original.
This time without the visible wrench on his hand. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Right. And it looked like the glass was like made out of like plastic or paper or something in the original. Like it bubbled when it broke. Yeah. It was weird looking.
Well, they also have Nick Castle, who played the Shape, come back and play him every once in a while. Like he was doing the breathing scenes or the window scenes.
Right. And in the first one and then this one, he did. And the third one he did not, but he did make a cameo.
Yes, he did. Clearly him.
Yeah, it was very clearly him, but he didn't do any of the costume stuff as the Shape. Yeah. He was just there as a cameo.
I mean, the actual legacy characters, absolutely a highlight. I like that they did that. Like they acknowledged things.
Yeah. So highlight, that would be it. What's your highlight?
No, I agree with that. The highlights with the actual legacy characters, that everyone came back, that they gave them stuff to do. I said,
yeah, I mean, I don't think they used them very well, but it was nice. It was interesting to see.
They did not use Marion well to get killed off, and Tommy to get killed off. I don't know how I really feel about that. His character, the way Tommy was, yes, I hated him.
Yeah.
But if it was Paul Rudd's Tommy, I would have, would have felt differently. I don't think he would have been that way. Another highlight is it really feels like it's the same night because they have the callbacks with Lonnie being mentioned, the black couple being seen ever so briefly. It really felt like they were both filmed at the same time in mind. Like it was consistency was phenomenal.
Right. Yeah. But it was a few years later.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like,
because of COVID,
like 3 years
happened.
later. Right.
And so but I'm saying it really truly felt like a full-on proper sequel. Like everything was there. Like they filmed it both movies at the same time. And I love that feeling.
Yeah.
Because obviously Halloween 2, yes, it's the same night, but people changed a little bit. Laurie's hair was drastically different because she had to wear a wig to get that hairstyle back.
Right.
But this really felt like the same night and a straight continuation.
Yeah, that's fair. I get that.
So what about low points for you?
Low points.
I'm sure there's a few.
All right. Well, I'm gonna try to focus them in one area. Low points is I think they changed a lot of the characters' personalities between this first movie and the second movie. I mean, one, obviously they did the same thing to Laurie Strode that they did in Halloween 2, the original. Yeah. Is that she was like in the hospital, but like essentially now she's powerless, right? But in this one, it wasn't even Michael Myers stalking the hospital. She was just in the hospital.
Yeah.
And that was it. She could not leave the hospital. That was the end of the story. She was essentially taken out of the interesting part of this story. And she was just there to give like some exposition and to kind of sort of flirt with the cop guy, I guess. I mean, I guess that's what she was doing. But again, a lot of her strength was taken away. Like she just wasn't, I mean, she was still strong. Like she still tried to fight that one guy in the hallway, but then she was like immediately got hurt.
Yeah.
And then she just sat in a hospital bed. and then her granddaughter, Allison, who in the first movie was just like a scream queen who was afraid of everything, just running around screaming. It took her like all her strength at the end to like pick up a knife to save her mother's life, right? Then all of a sudden in this one, she's like badass, like, give me a gun, I'm gonna go hunt him. Like, we know for a fact she does not know how to shoot a gun.
Right. It's been 30 minutes.
Right. Well, and again, but they focused on like Laurie Strode's daughter was taught how to use a gun and was taught how to defend herself and all that kind of stuff until she was 12 when she got taken away. And she always resented her mother for doing that stuff. So we know for a fact she didn't make her daughter do it. Because that was the thing that she was so upset about. So we know she doesn't know how to fight. We know she doesn't know how to shoot. And now all of a sudden she's all gung-ho. Like the mom, if the mom was in that role, like she wanted to go out and hunt, I would be totally fine. Right. I would have no problem because that kind of sort of fits, right? That would be like an evolution of her character. Like, now that this is back, I'm going to protect I'm going to protect my daughter. I'm going to protect my mother who can't protect me anymore. Right. Because she's injured. I'm going to go do that. But instead we get the granddaughter who doesn't know how to do anything, be the badass, with her boyfriend who, I don't know why she would decide to just forgive him immediately and then go with him and his dad. Right. There's so many things that are just like, glossed over or forgotten about, or like personalities completely change. And I don't know. It's very inconsistent with that. But I would say my low point is probably how kind of removed Laurie is from this story. Yeah. I would agree with that. And my low point will tie into the third one that will, brief spoiler here. They took it out like they had it set up for a final battle. Like she won the first round. She couldn't do the second. And it was setting up the final showdown. And that's what just seemed like a lull point, like a ending on a bad note, Empire Strike Back type thing, right? Right. And it doesn't pay off. No. So they set up for something more spectacular than what they could do. Or what they did. Correct. So that, because of the trilogy now, that became my low point. That's fair. And just the waste of legacy characters. Correct. Oh, and the retroactive legacy characters. I don't like that. Yeah, I don't like it either. I don't think it's necessary. No. No. They could have just been their friend, or they could have made it somebody else. I don't know why they have to insert in their character that they wanted. It's goofy. Yeah. So what number of Butcher Knives did you give this out of 10? Man. I don't know. I'm trying to think. It's not high. 4 Butcher Knives out of 10 is what I will give. 4. Despite all of this stuff, I'm probably going to 7. I think it's a decent enough follow-up to watch it. Like I said, there's some things they did well with the follow-up, and then some things they're just very inconsistent on. And they're just, again, the whole kind of Mary Sue aspect of Michael Myers and what he is now capable of versus what he was always been capable of before, it just is really, really off-putting. Yeah. Especially for how, the first one was pretty faithful. Yeah. Right? It was pretty faithful to the original. They didn't give him magic powers or anything like that. And then this one just, took a right turn into Magic Town. Yeah. So we're all of a sudden now he's invincible and he's, magical and all that kind of stuff. I just completely unnecessary. Well, they didn't want to do these connections, and that's why they ignored the rest. But then they started showing the elements of more superhuman stuff behind him. And I agree that if you're going to steer away from that, steer away from it. But they didn't. But then they go, we'll get into the third one where it's iffy about that point. Yeah. I mean, again, as well, we'll get into that. So, all right. So let's tag team Halloween Ends. And Halloween Ends. Well, so we go with spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. This movie just came out. It came out a week ago. Right. So we waited. If you haven't watched a new Halloween movie in the last week, this will be a spoiler for you. Yes, and we purposely waited a week
to give people time to watch this in case that time frame, right?
Are we gonna be nice like that in the future?
No.
Is that gonna be a thing?
Just because this month is so heavy.
All right, that's fair. That's fair.
Okay, so I'll kick it off, right? So we see Halloween 2019. So the opening is a year after the events of the first two movies, where we see some kid, babysitting. I think Corey's his name. At a really rich house in Haddonfield. Parents. He's been there before. They kind of know him, stuff like that, right? And the boy he's babysitting is kind of an asshole. They were watching The Thing.
Yes, they were.
John Carpenter thing. We finally got that after we mentioned it. Before seeing this, they should do that, and they're actually watching it.
Well, it wasn't even out yet. It wasn't even out yet when we saw it.
So that's good. I like that. That's great foresight that we had the same idea that they did, right?
Right.
So the guy's kind of a loser, right? You can tell. He's seems really, really smart, good electronics, like going to MIT or something like that, right? Just very, very awkward. The boy he's babysitting just becomes an asshole. He traps him in the attic, and he's getting freaked out because the parents are coming home. He's screaming, "Hey, I'm going to kill you! I'm going to kill you!" He's trying to get out. The boy wouldn't lock the door, kicks it open, hits the boy, and he falls down 2 stories and just gets.
I think it was higher than 2.
3.
Yeah, I think it was.
And
3.
just gets wrecked. So
it lands on his neck.
Yeah, I'm like, that was an interesting start. Like the opposite. We always start with the babysitter type thing, and the kid gets killed.
Right.
He gets accused of killing the kid because the parents heard him screaming, "I'm going to kill you," and then the kid ends up dead.
Well, I'm sure he would get accused even if they didn't hear that. I mean, if you're the babysitter and the kid's dead when they get home, yeah, you're going to be the first suspect.
Right. So then we kind of, cut forward 3 years. Now we're in 2022. We skipped the pandemic. Yay. And, so the town's still reeling. People are kind of, blaming Laurie for all this stuff that's happening. And all of a sudden, now she's in a nice house. She's celebrating Halloween. After 44 years, she's celebrating Halloween. She's taking care of her granddaughter, who's now a nurse. And stuff like that, right? And Corey, became a pariah of the town, working at his stepfather's or mom's boyfriend's scrapyard, and is building, really working on engines, is able to really work on that because you can tell that's kind of like what he likes to do.
Right. Poor Ronald. He was a good dude. He was a nice guy.
Yeah. So, like I said, Laurie's being as a pariah. We've got to mention the elderly couple that were married that were flying the drone next to Laurie's house. The woman gets stabbed in the neck with a fluorescent light bulb. She's still alive. Even though Michael goes around and makes sure all his victims are dead, she's alive, but she can't talk. So we have a brief glimpse. They blame Laurie Strode for all the evil that has been bestowed upon Haddonfield. That her and Allison are pariahs, and now we have this Corey guy who's also a pariah. He is at a gas station, something like a gas station, and he starts getting picked on by extras from Chappie. That guy's haircut was the haircuts that the band had in Chappie.
That's Die Antwoord. The band. Yeah, that's definitely a Die Antwoord haircut.
Yeah, so Corey, who's not a high schooler, is getting picked on by these 5'2" kids that are not big at all. Did they cut his hand? No, he
was. Yeah, they were making fun of him.
He squeezes the bottle and
it.
cuts his hand open.
Well, he squeezes his bottle, and I think that hurts him a little bit. But then the kid pushes him down,
Yeah.
and when he goes to like put his hand to like stop himself, I think the glass stabbed into his hand.
And Laurie's there and sees it and go, "Oh, this poor kid. We gotta take you. My granddaughter is a nurse. We'll take care of you." She sees him probably as the way that she sees there, because they're both outcasts of Haddonfield. So she kind of feels for him, right? That she probably knows that it was an accident, and he was obviously cleared of it. So I think it was ruled an accident, but he's still.
They were really, really pushing that like love at first sight.
Oh yeah, and
like she was like you like obviously very attracted to him immediately.
Yes, and she's working on the hand. She didn't get the job because we find out that her coworker did, the head nurse, whatever it was with the doctor. We found out later that they're screwing
charge nurse.
Yeah, there's something going on, and there's just love at first sight. Allison and Corey are just like together, and like no one understands why she's with Corey. He's a pariah. She's a cop, and just gets a whole bunch of crap. Corey is picked on, by everyone, including his mom, everyone except his, I guess, stepdad or whoever he is, who's just doing the best he can for him. Seems to really care about him. Ronald,
he's a good guy. Ronald's a dude.
Yeah.
He liked Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah. So, they go to a Halloween party. Even Corey didn't want to go. There's a flasher wearing a Skin Man outfit who's played by Nick Castle.
Right.
And people see him there, and he's just being seen by the boy's mother that he had killed accidentally. And she goes off on him saying, you shouldn't be here, blah, blah, blah. They have a fight because he didn't want to go out, even though he did. He leaves, she leaves, and lo and behold, the chappy wannabe extras find him and throw him off a bridge.
Yep.
Because, he, except one person at that time's like, we shouldn't be doing this. They didn't want to do it, and they throw him off like, what, a 10-foot bridge, let's say?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it wasn't that tall, but it was high enough to.
Oh yeah, I mean it was like one of the drainage sewers that's like on the concrete. He didn't fall in the water.
Right.
And then he is dragged in the sewers, and he's confronted by Michael Myers.
Right. And now, okay, I'm very confused at this point, because the second one, they made all of these things, like, especially even as he was killing people, talking about how, he gets his power when he kills people, and he's killing people, and it's like showing him getting stronger, right? And then it kind of cuts away like, he killed all of these people, and then he shows up right behind the daughter and kills her, right? And then no mention of him has been said for the last 4 years. Obviously, people would say if he's still around, and they knew he was still around. And now all of a sudden he's like decrepit, and he can't like move, and he can't do anything.
He didn't kill anyone in 4 years.
So it's like if murder is like fuel to him, like he needs murder to survive. It not only does it just make him stronger, but it's fuel for him to survive.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just clarifying.
Yeah.
So.
Corey's able to overpower the decrepit 65-year-old Michael Myers at this point in time. And
he qualifies as a senior citizen.
Yeah, right. But there's a homeless guy on the way out. Corey confronts him and stabs him and flees. And then,
okay. To be fair, that old guy threatened him with the knife.
Yeah.
That old guy said, "I'm Michael Myers," and he tried to kill it. He tried to come at him with the knife, so he stabbed him with his own knife.
Right. Well, he
very clearly so.
Well, he wasn't expecting him to live, because he's seen people go into the sewer not come out. So that means, once again, people are getting killed by Michael Myers in that sewer, but he's still not strong enough.
Well, there was also when he was getting thrown off the bridge.
Yeah.
If you notice, the billboard behind them was a billboard for a missing girl that has been missing since last Halloween.
Yeah.
So
they've alluded to her.
At least like once a year, they're kind of alluding that he kills somebody once a year. At least that's what's keeping him alive, is his one murder a year, even though somehow he survived
40 years
for 40 years without killing anyone, and he was fine.
Correct. But he wasn't severely damaged like he was, so who knows?
He wasn't damaged at all at the end of the second one.
I know.
I'm just saying, like, if they ended it on him getting the crap beat out of him, or like, you know, getting shot in like a fake death ending, I could get why he would be decrepit and like, you know, weak.
Yeah.
But no, he ended on a strong note. He ended on a murder
Right.
note. He should be fine. And no, he's
right.
weak.
He killed like 20 people. Yeah.
Right.
But he goes out on a date with Allison. I think he tells her that he killed someone.
He does, but he's talking about the kid.
Yeah.
And then he brings her to the house to show her.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, he was like sleeping. Yeah. Goes on the spot, cries, blah, blah, blah. They go out to dinner. Then the ex-boyfriend cop harasses him, and he kind of lures the cop to follow him. Like, he knows he's going to get followed. He lures him to the sewer. Michael emerges, and they kind of he kills the cop, and like then all of a sudden they like stare into each other's eyes like they're gonna kiss. like ooh, you like to kill people, I like to kill people too. Imagine that. Right, so
yeah,
so it's a very supernatural connection all of a sudden they have. Right, so we kind of get cut back to, you know, Allison not being passed, so he kind of gets revenge for her by going to the doctor's house where she works at the clinic, and he's wooing the nurse that he promoted. They're having an affair, blah, blah. I don't know, is it an affair? Was he married? Or is this a fling?
No, I don't think he was married. I think it was just him. It was her. I don't know. I think it was both of them, honestly. Like, she was trying to get ahead at the job by sleeping with the doctor.
Right.
And the doctor was willing to let her get the promotion by sleeping with him, kind of.
Right.
So, yeah, they were like mutually using each other.
Right. So they're going to do it, as you do. And Corey shows up and kills him. And he
kills her. No, kills him. Sorry.
Well, he kills the nurse too. Oh, no. Michael kills the nurse. Yes. So they are now killing together. But
right, they're tag teaming. They're tag
Lonnie's was Corey wearing a plastic mask?
Yeah, he was wearing the scarecrow mask. That was the mask that he wore to the party.
So we're once again in cheap mask territory.
Correct.
That, you know, he's now helping get kills for Michael Myers to make him stronger.
That's kind of what they're alluding to, right?
And
but Michael apparently shows up on his own to help anyway.
Right, which is weird. But at this point, we have 2 minutes of Michael Myers, like more than halfway through the movie.
Well, he doesn't make his first appearance until 40 minutes through the movie. I paused it till I could find out exactly how long it took to show him, and it was 40 minutes.
Yeah.
40 minutes is when we see the first instance of him, like, you know, reaching his hand out to grab Corey when he was in that thing. Is 40 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, that's not a long Michael Myers movie.
Right.
You know, meanwhile, like this, Laurie's writing a book. She's going to write her memoirs. But now she's starting to get suspicious of Corey because she starts to see the evil in him. So kind of like saying, hey, stay away from my granddaughter. You're turning evil, tries to tell people. And Allison's like, no, you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. This is love. We're going to run away together.
Yep.
Solid
plan.
Yeah. You want to take it over from there?
Okay, so yeah, they decide they're going to run away together. And at this point, Laurie basically sees the black eyes in
darkest eyes.
Corey's head now. yeah. So she's pulling a Dr. Loomis to where she doesn't have any real evidence at this point as to why she doesn't like him, but she just sees Michael's eyes in him and knows that he's somehow, I don't think she knows he's linked to Michael, but thinks that he's some kind of like dark murdering kind of person. Right. And so like when he shows up at the house to like pick up Allison, she looks out the window and she sees him like lurking behind a bush, like how Michael did to her in the beginning of the 1978 Halloween. So yeah, she like immediately suspects him. So she's like, tries to explain to her daughter or her granddaughter, like, hey, this dude's like bad news. You like shouldn't hang out with this guy anymore.
Right.
And she goes, no, we're in love.
You don't understand, grandmother.
Right. You don't understand. Yeah. So then he's like kind of like slipping like downward. He's in like a downward spiral kind of thing. Right? Yeah. Like he's, his mom is like, getting angry at him and slapping him and, all this, like he's just like, getting angrier and angrier kind of thing.
Right.
So yeah, he's kind of spiraling out. So he is like trying to convince her that they need to just like leave.
Yeah.
Right. They need to like just leave Haddonfield and just go anywhere else and they can start their lives over. Like both, the town knows both of us and knows our history. We need to go somewhere where they don't know our history kind of thing.
Right.
So that's kind of like where they're going. And then she's kind of trying to stop them. So Laurie sees her packing, getting ready to go and confronts her about the whole thing. And at this point, Corey is kind of getting unhinged. I mean, he was a little unhinged. I mean, obviously he's killing people, right? Yeah. But at least he was doing it for kind of sort of a selfless reason. I mean, it's still bad to be killing people, obviously, but at least he was doing it for someone else. And at this point, he just starts killing on his own. Like he kills his mom.
Yep.
I mean, he's like, again, it's just now he's going bad. And it seems to me like every kill that he does, the kind of more darker and unhinged he becomes.
Yeah.
And at this point, I don't know how Allison doesn't see it because he acts like a completely different person.
Right.
I mean, he's like very like quiet and brooding and like talks in a voice like this. I mean, he's totally different. Like, because he was, talking like a kind of high pitched nerdy voice in the beginning, when she first met him, like totally physically different, obviously physically and mentally different anyway. At this point, and then he decides like he's going to get revenge on those kids that threw him off the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he goes and finds them at the gas station. Apparently they just hang out at this gas station. So he writes like psycho on their hood with a knife. And then gets on his motorcycle and then they chase him. And they chase him to the car lot. Yeah, the scrapyard where he worked at, where his stepdad Ronald is in the office watching Van Damme movie.
Right.
Watching a Van Damme movie, but he's got headphones on, so that's why he doesn't hear me. So anyway, so he leads them there. And so, he leaves his motorcycle in the open. So they get there and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to teach him. We're going to, grab his motorcycle, chain it up to our car, and we're going to drive around the neighborhood and mess it all up. So they tie the chain around the bike and he goes, all right, Billy, hit it. And Billy doesn't hit it. And he goes over and he's like, what's wrong, Billy? And he pulls his head back and he's got like a screwdriver through his eyeball, right? Billy's not making it. Billy's dead. That's the mullet dude.
Right.
Who probably deserved it. I did not like mullet Billy. He was
correct.
Yeah. So at this point, it's like, they're all like, oh, right. And then, so this tow truck, like the lights come on and it's chasing him down. And the one guy realizes that, hey, this truck can only go in one direction, and he goes the other direction. And then the two girls that are there decide, hey, let's just keep running. They went to the Prometheus school of running,
correct?
And they just decide to run in the exact path that the obstacle is coming in, so that you make sure you get hit by it. So the one girl ends up making it over the fence. The one girl barely makes it over and then gets run over.
Yeah.
Right. But she's not quite dead. She's just the tow truck has trapped the fence on top.
I'm not dead yet.
Right, yeah. So then the other girl comes over and like tries to help him, and then he gets out. He's wearing his coveralls, right? So like his transition to Michael Myers is becoming more and more complete. And then he hits her with the monkey wrench. And then that's when we see that he's also wearing Michael Myers' mask. I don't think we clarified that he did go back to Michael and try to like get him to come with him to go kill people, and he wouldn't. So he just took his mask.
He beat up a 65-year-old man that was essentially dying.
Right.
It seems like.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Essentially, yeah, he's out of murder fuel or whatever is going on with him. So he takes his mask, so he's gonna go kill people himself. And then, sorry, that's when I think he kills his mom, and that's when he starts this whole thing. Was after he took the mask. Anyway, so that's why Michael is like finally they show him like kind of like deciding to like shuffle out of his sewer home. But that's it. We don't see him at this point. So he kills the one girl with the monkey wrench. The other girl is still kind of trapped underneath there. Ronald finally hears what's going on. He takes off his headphones and runs out there. Or he finds the kid because the kid's banging on the window. So he gives the kid a gun immediately. Like, I don't know why. Like, he didn't even know this person. He's like, here's a gun. We're going to go look for what's going on. So Ronald gets a gun. He gives a rifle to the kid. So they go out there. He sees the girl trapped under the fence. So he goes to try to help her out. And the kid is sitting with the rifle, and then he sees Michael Myers appear. Well, what he thinks is Michael Myers. It's really Corey wearing Michael Myers' outfit. So he goes to shoot him, and Ronald stands up to stop him and gets shot right dead center in the forehead.
Yeah.
And he gets killed. And then so the kid kind of walks up to try to save the girl as well, and then he comes up, grabs a gun out of his hand, beats him to death essentially with the gun. And then at that point, he decides that he's going to go to Laurie Strode's house because they cut to showing Allison is like sitting at this restaurant, like waiting for him because he said, "Oh, we're going to leave. Meet me at this restaurant at 9:00, and then we'll go." So she packed up all her stuff and she's waiting to go, but he's instead having a murder plan, right? So he can't go. So he goes back to the house and we see Laurie is there. It shows her kind of stacking up her book like she's kind of done, and then closing her laptop, and then she opens up her safe and she pulls out a gun and she's kind of fixing everything to look kind of perfect in this thing, and then she's like calls the police and says, "I want to report a suicide at their house," and then she like puts the gun to her head, and then she like kind of cries and pulls it away, but then they kind of cut to showing Corey or I should say something in the hallway, right?
Yeah.
And then they go to the viewpoint of the hallway, and then it's like, boom, you hear the gunshot, and then like a big splat of stuff on the wall. And you're like, oh no, she killed herself. So then Corey goes running in the room, and she goes, "You really thought I would kill myself?" And she
shot a pumpkin.
Right. Yeah, she shot the pumpkin. And so he thought it shot her, but no. So she shoots him, I believe, twice.
Yeah. Something like that.
So she shot him twice. He kind of falls over the railing and falls on the floor. So she goes down there, and she's like, "Come on and get me." So she shoots twice more into the wall, I guess to like show him that the gun is empty now. And then she throws the gun on the ground. She's like, "Come on, come at me." And so he's still got his like butcher knife. Yep. This is Michael Myers' like kind of like aged butcher knife that he pulled. I think he took that along with his mask.
Yeah.
Anyway. So they kind of struggle and fight, and Laurie easily wins.
Yep.
And then like he's kind of like decides at this point that like, the only way that what does he say?
If I can't no one can.
And you expect him to say, "Then no one can," but he basically says, "If I can't have her," and then stabs himself in the throat, like immediately. There is no completing the sentence. He just stabs himself in the throat. And you're like, oh, wow, okay. And so Laurie pulls the knife out of his throat, is standing there with a bloody knife in her hand, and Allison opens.
Because you always pull a knife out of someone's body.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so of course, Allison now thinks that Laurie just attacked Corey, right? Because again, she was telling her, "Oh, I don't like him. You shouldn't date him." Blah blah blah. And she's like, "No, we're in love." Blah blah. So now she thinks that Laurie went the extra step and just murdered him instead of letting her run off.
Correct.
So yeah, they're
his
like
grandmother sensed evil.
Right. Yeah, grandmother sensed evil or whatever. So Allison, like, I don't know what, goes upstairs to cry, or I don't know what the hell she does, but she's like still in the house.
I think she's like getting all her shit together.
Yeah, whatever. She she goes upstairs to whatever off camera. Yeah. and then Laurie's all like upset, about what's going on. And then essentially Michael actually comes back and goes into the house because apparently he's called by the mask, right? And because the mask was there and Corey is now dead and the mask is on the ground. So Michael comes in, sees the mask, puts it on. Laurie sees like the door open, so she's like pretty sure that he's there or, you know, something bad is going to happen. And there's like a whole lot of struggle. Basically Laurie ends up like stabbing both of his hands into like the butcher block.
The island. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then she like takes his mask off and then like slits his throat and he's like still fine. Like he pulls his hand away from the knife, like cuts his hand open and like is still trying to reach at him. And then they like, you know, Allison comes down at this point and is like, oh man, what's going on? And so then like she like slices his arm open as well. And there's like blood all over the place, but he's still basically like alive.
Yep.
Right. And it takes a really like long time for him to actually like die or whatever. The cops are all showing up.
Well, she slits his wrist too.
Well, yeah, I said that. Yeah, she slit his throat, and then when the daughter comes to grab him, and then she slices his arm, and there's blood all, like I said, blood all over the place. So the cops all come. They all like, oh, he's dead or whatever, and they're just like, well, no, we need to like end it. So they all grab his body. The police and everybody is all okay.
The entire town comes out.
Like, yeah, it's like a funeral procession. The entire town. So they like tie Michael to the roof of their car, and they drive him to the scrap yard, and they like have this weird like body surfing procession where they like bring his body from the car to the scrap yard. But everybody helps her move the body to the scrapper thing, but Laurie is the only one up there.
Yeah.
And she has to throw his body in by herself. But anyway, she throws his body into the metal scrapper, you know, grinder thing. And like you see his body all like get ground up and his brain flops around and everything. And then he's dead, and then the movie's over.
Yes.
And then she finishes her book.
Right, saying that the memory of Michael Myers will never live on. And she's writing this in a book that she's going to publish. So the memory will live on in the memoir. Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, let's get into your first thoughts on this.
I mean, as I was watching it, I mean, I don't know if you want me to wait until we get to the lore part of this.
Yeah, lore part.
I was watching it. Obviously, I'm surprised at how long it took for Michael to be in the movie, considering that like he's the only thing that's in all of these movies except for the third one, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, it took a long time for him to be in the movie, and even though they talk about him all the time, you know, he's not in it. And the other thing that I thought was odd was that like every time there's like a positive moment, every single time one of these people that have like these traumas, right? It's like we're talking Allison, we're talking Laurie, we're talking Corey. These people all have traumas in their life, right? Every time they have like something like good or nice or happy happen to them, immediately get fucking like face to face with somebody who's like, you are a terrible shit person. Every single time.
Yeah, because it happened to Laurie when she's in the grocery store and she's reconnecting with the sheriff, and that's when the woman comes out. It's your fault my mom can't talk because she got stabbed in the neck because of your
right. And she dragged her poor mother to the store with her.
Yeah.
Right. Like, leave her at home. What are you doing to the poor lady? Yeah, but then and also you know, like the Corey is like finally coming out of his shell, like after years. It had been like what, 3 years? For him, and he never goes out, he never does anything. He's like a pariah of the town. He never, you know, he tries to stay away from everybody as possible because they all hate him, or he thinks they do. And he finally like has a nice like party moment where he's actually having fun and getting along, and you know, with this, you know, with Allison and the, you know, everything's going well for him. And then he goes to the bar like, hey, give me a beer. And of course, the person sitting directly next to him is the mom of the kid that he killed. Right. Yeah. I mean, this is ridiculous. Oh yeah. There's that scene later on with the dad. So where, you know, he's like, oh, let me introduce you to somebody. And they talk to the dad, who's like, oh yeah, he was a good kid. I liked him a lot. He was great. And then like, you know, I saw him on the side of the road. I went to pull over to talk to him, and he had the darkest eyes. I knew it wasn't him. It's like, what is it with you people in these eyes? Like, you can't
Well, eyes are the
feel evil
eyes are
through
the windows
eyes.
to the soul.
I know. I mean, they are going back to the first one. That's what that's what Loomis said in the first one. It was his only excuse for why he didn't like the kid was he has the darkest devil's eyes.
Right.
Stupid. But anyway, yeah. So there's like, but every time there's any kind of like happy moment, it is immediately shut down. I thought that was just kind of oddly convenient writing. So where like no one's allowed to be happy in this world.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Yeah. My first thoughts is this is going to, when I first saw it, is going to be very divisive, like Halloween 3. It is essentially it's not a Halloween movie. It is a Romeo and Juliet love story.
Yeah,
it's a tragedy.
Yeah,
it's a tragedy, not a horror movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, the only difference in like Romeo and Juliet is like the two families hated each other, and this one is like at least in the beginning, the two families are fine. It's the rest of the town that hates both of them.
I mean, it's a tragedy.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing that really upset me though is like Laurie Strode, right, and her family. How can you hate her and blame the shit on her? Yeah. She was attacked and stalked by a guy who did these things to her. She had no part in it. Like saying like it's your fault that my mom got stabbed in the neck with a fluorescent light bulb by some maniac because you were there or he was looking for you. Like, one, that's not even true because the only reason that he was there was because the doctor brought him there. He wasn't even going after her in the first place.
He just wants to go home.
And two, nice victim blaming, lady. I mean, Jesus, it's not her fault.
But yeah, the very divisive movie. It's like I said, it's a tragedy, not a horror. It's not. It doesn't even feel like a Halloween movie.
Well, it doesn't. I'll get into that. That was the thing I didn't want to get into.
We can get next. There's no rewatches yet. I mean, I don't necessarily think. I mean, obviously, I have to rewatch it if I watch, the first two of this trilogy. I don't necessarily want to.
Now I'm gonna say, I'm gonna harken back to like some of the Hellraiser movies, right? Like these. I don't think this movie was originally supposed to be a Halloween movie. I think this movie was originally written, or at least originally conceived, as just being like a weird kind of, like you said, like a horror kind of tragedy.
Yeah.
Right? Because essentially you take Michael Myers out of the story and it's the same story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it could have been anything. Or I think it could have also worked pretty well as like a reboot. Again, this is what I think I discussed it with you a little briefly earlier, is it would work better as a reboot. Like the whole thing of him seeing Michael Myers and like being his like, hands and his power, whatever it is, and Michael Myers guiding him as a mentor could have all been in his head.
Yeah.
I mean, that could have all been just a figment of his imagination until Michael Myers showed up and fought Laurie Strode after he was dead. Up until that point, Michael Myers didn't have to exist in that world. It could have all been a mental projection of Corey and him like slowly becoming Michael Myers himself by, the coveralls and the mask and the, all that kind of stuff. Like he could have just become it. Like I said, it's like being as a reboot or like a revival of continuing that story. I think it would have been great. And I think somebody came along later and was like, no. Michael Myers has to really be in the movie. You can't just have a movie about Michael Myers where he's not really there. And I think that's why it feels so forced at the end.
Right.
Is because I think this movie was originally written to move it forward, to take Michael Myers out of it, to move the franchise in a different direction to where the actual Michael Myers isn't the bad guy anymore. It's somebody else, or at least some kind of supernatural force that can take over other people.
Well, like a passing of the torch.
Right. That kind of thing. But instead of like, they wouldn't allow that to happen. Like, I think whoever's in charge of the franchise or in charge of the IP is like, no. You can't kill him. Or no, you can kill him, but you can't have a movie without him. Like he has to exist for real in the movie. And I think that's why that's what they did that. And it really, that's why it feels so tacked on, because that ending is definitely tacked on.
Right. The ultimate showdown was barely anything.
Right. As I'm saying, it was tacked on. That was completely added at the last minute. Like that whole thing, it's forced because there's no lead up to it. There's no like energy. There's no emotion. There's no, anything for that scene because that wasn't what the movie was. There's no lead up to it. He just shows up because his mask called to him. Otherwise he would have no reason to ever go there. I don't know. And again, it's goofy. Again, I think this would have been a much, much better story if we stuck with the whole Michael Myers was in his head and he became essentially the new Michael Myers. And then the movie should have ended where he, if I can't have her, and then stabbed himself in the neck, right? Laurie pulls the bloody knife out of his neck. She opens the door. That's the end of the movie.
Right.
Right. I mean, what a horrible, bad ending that would be, right? Because she looks like the murderer. Right. And it's fantastic at that. I thought that would have been a great ending. And at that point, you could have made it like an anthology to where whatever Michael Myers energy takes over other people and similar stories like this would happen. Right. Doesn't necessarily have to have Laurie Strode in it, but at least the first one having her in it is like the passing of the torch kind of thing. And I think that would have been a much better movie if they had done that. I really just feel like some suit came in here and was like, no, we need to have Michael Myers in this movie. We need to have the showdown. And they're like, what, you want to just add it to the end of the movie? He's like, yeah, go ahead. And that's what they did. And that's why it hurts so much to watch.
Lore-wise, it really harkened back to the curse of Michael Myers. Like he was able to, that evil force was moving, as you were saying, into Corey. And like the locking of the eyes, it almost felt like it was a moment of like he touched the thorn tattoo. It really felt like that they had that connection, that was going to be his legacy. He was going to be passing down to Corey.
Right. Yeah, I just feel like the original script of this movie was probably good. And I think that this added ending and the goofy stuff they had to stuff in there.
Right.
I think ruined the ending.
Now, do you think this was as close to as a Michael Myers-less Halloween as we got with like Halloween 3? Like this was the idea of it moving to anthology after this point?
Yeah, but I mean, this would have been a different kind of anthology. So we're like Halloween 3, they just wanted to have an anthology of like the theme just being Halloween in general, right? And I think in this one they wanted to be like it's an anthology theme of like the Michael Myers
universe,
energy, at least. Right. But it's different people, different stories, different situations. Yeah. I mean, it would have been interesting if they did that, but instead they had to like stuff actual Michael Myers in here.
Let's go into the lore of what happens next. We know the franchise.
What happens next after that?
We know the franchise is never going to stay dead.
Correct.
And we discussed before you watch these, like, the contract said they couldn't kill Michael Myers. They did.
Right.
So,
well, that was the as far as I only read, that was the contract in H2O and Resurrection. They weren't allowed to kill him.
With Corey being dead, had he stayed alive, then we could have done the passing the torch, and it's not Michael Myers, it's the evil entity that exists. You can go deeper in the lore, and him being smushed to nothing would have made more sense, and it wasn't the end of that embodiment of evil, but the next one still exists.
Well, we could just do like a Child's Play 3, where we could just like all of his like guts get made into a car, and then it's an evil Michael Myers car.
Would you be mad if the next one they do a resurrection pull and they're saying it wasn't him?
But that wasn't the real Michael Myers? I mean, that would be disingenuous because they said it was. Like, Laurie Strode looked at his maskless face and said, "This is him." Everyone else in the town did too. So I mean, again, I don't see how they could be fooled. If he had his mask on the whole time, sure, maybe. But no, like they took his mask off. They were looking at his face. And in that universe, everybody else had seen his face. It's just we as the audience have not, because they wanted to keep it a mystery. But they've all seen his face on the news and stuff. They all know what he looks like. So I don't think they could have. Again, what I think they're going to do moving forward is they're probably just going to reboot it again. Then the next time, I don't think they're going to start with one being canon. I think they're just going to start over from the beginning.
Yeah.
Is what I think they're going to do. So, like, I mean, well, the only one that's done that so far in all of these 13 movies is Rob Zombie. Is he like totally redid the first one? I think they're going to do that again.
Okay. Do you think? I don't think
Rob Zombie's
will be a remake.
Yes,
with Laurie Strode or a new set of characters. So Laurie Strode. So if we don't have Laurie Strode, we don't ever have to worry about Jamie Lee Curtis coming back.
Right. And I don't think she wants to do it anymore. I mean, she's getting up there, but I just don't think she wants. I mean, she's been in. I was thinking about it. She's in 7 out of the 13 movies. 7.5.
Yeah.
Because she's technically the voice in Halloween 3, so we'll count that as half.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's in more of them than she's not.
All right.
But yeah, she's kind of the face of that franchise. So if you really want to reboot it, you're going to have to reboot it.
If you want to move past Laurie Strode, and if you want to move past Jamie Lee Curtis, you have to move past Laurie Strode. Just like in Evil Dead Rises, there's no Ash. Or, the reboot of 2013, there was no Ash. Is the same universe. Right. But you want to get past Bruce Campbell as Ash, that's how you do it. You don't have that character anymore. It's a new story in the same world. Or maybe they can go to anthology. I'd like them to do anthology. That the Michael Myers saga is dead. Done.
I mean, yeah, it'd be great. And if they let Halloween Ends end when it should have, they could have done that. But I think the way that they ended it, I don't think they can keep going with this storyline. I think they're going to have to come up with a new one. And that's why I think they're going to totally reboot it, because again, they've done the whole thing where like, oh, the first one's canon or the first 2 are canon, and we're just going to kind of restart our timeline from there. They've done that already. They've done that twice already.
Unless we get somehow Michael Myers has returned from the
Well, yeah. I mean, we'll just have J.J. Abrams do it. He'll solve all the problems.
It'll be in Fortnite. How Michael Myers came
back. Oh, yeah.
All right. Let's get into the highlights. Highlights for me. I really don't like this movie. I guess the highlights would be, you would have to say Corey, and the idea of the passing of the torch just wasn't executed well enough. That would be my highlight.
Yeah, again, as I said before, I mean, that's pretty much what I would say is that Corey, the story of him, like, kind of descending into madness, right? Because that's essentially what this is. I mean, that story is pretty good. Again, even if the Michael Myers element is there, but it's there as an element where it's in his head. And again, up until the point where, Michael Myers comes back for real and picks the mask up off the floor in Laurie's house, up until that point, I like the movie. I think it's a great movie. But once that thing happens, it just kind of blew all the credibility that it made in its head. Just gone. So I would say the highlight is the movie before that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
To your point, though, is Hellraiser. Like the Hellraiser stuff that wasn't Hellraiser, like the Descent into Madness, and we could have seen the origins of a new evil. It would have been good. Yeah. Right. So that my highlights. The highlights Corey, his path.
Yeah, but and like I said, I agree with that as being the highlight. Is I like that story. I think it was well done. I think it was well acted. Everything was pretty good up until that point. I have some issues with Laurie,
and Allison.
That's yeah. Well, not really Allison. I mean, that's sort of. I mean, that's forgivable as an offense. But I mean, Laurie, I think there's some stuff there that I don't like. I mean, because we're still on highlights.
Yeah. So, let's get in. You have any other highlights though, other than okay?
No.
So let's get into low points. Go into your low points then.
Low points is, again, just the personification of Laurie. I know this is like so many low points in most of these movies. You can't go from being a crazy prepper to being like a homebody in 4 years like that.
Well,
it just she's never ever going to get rid, especially since the last one ended on such an open note. He killed her daughter. He upped it up, man. He like stepped it up, and he hasn't been caught. Why would she just give up?
Right.
She's like, oh, yeah, whatever. I don't need my compound anymore. I'm just going to buy a house in the middle of the town. Don't lock any of my doors. Get rid of all my guns. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that?
That was my argument for this movie. I was going to say the same exact fucking thing. Her friends died 40 years ago. She's insane. Dozens of people died in her daughter, and she's okay.
Well, I think the biggest part, I don't think she really cares about the rest of those people, because most of the people that she cared about were okay except for her daughter. But I mean, is her daughter being murdered and then Michael Myers disappearing? I mean, I don't think that's there's no way. I understand that she might want to put like a front of being more stable, because now she's like the caretaker of her granddaughter. So mistakes of her past at getting her daughter taken away by pushing on it too hard. I get that she wouldn't push that hard on her, but there is no way in hell that she would just give up and be a homebody and start leaving her doors unlocked. And then the only gun in the house is this little rinky-dink 38 that's in a safe upstairs. She would have taught Allison how to fight. She would have taught Allison how to shoot. She would have kept up with that shit. She would have still had, traps or whatever, lights or something to protect herself. And she had nothing. How do you go from being crazy for 40 years and then your daughter gets murdered and you just don't care anymore?
The stakes were, she went through more trauma in 2018 than she did in 1978.
Right. And like those, I'm just going to forget about it. I'm just going to forget it. If Michael Myers had been dead at the end of the second one, okay, I will totally agree with you. I would totally say that's fine. I get why she would want to move on with her life. She wants to provide a stable home for her granddaughter. She wants to move on with her life. She finally saw the light. I get that. But the fact that he was never caught, did not die, and murdered her daughter before he disappeared, there's no way in hell. There's no way in hell that would happen.
Not at all. And
but again, I mean, she was still fairly strong in this movie. I mean, obviously she saw Corey's, the bullshit about the dark eyes or whatever, but she knew that he was bad and she was working out for her granddaughter, but she was a strong character. It wasn't bad. I'm just saying that they took a lot of that strength that should have been amplified, but instead they just kind of toned it down.
Well, I also feel that Allison should have had strength too. She should have, both her parents got killed. And, by her grandmother's evil, and she's so blindly in love that she doesn't see the same evil that took her parents 4 years prior. That doesn't make any sense why she would do that in my head.
Yeah. I mean, let's just totally forget about it. Again, if Michael Myers died at the end of the second one, these are forgivable things. But because he did not, it doesn't make sense. It's a huge plot.
And also, they didn't seem to know what to do with Kyle Richards in this movie, other than her be a bartender. Big part. And then now here's her 30-second cameo. God.
Right, essentially, yeah. And she likes tarot. Yeah. That was it.
Yeah. So,
so that whole thing, and then I will also tack on just the ending standoff fight. I thought was completely pointless and just out of place.
Yeah.
Sorry. Low points over. Go ahead.
So let's get into butcher knives. You can, I'll go first. After I watched this with the wife, I had a debate in my head. What was the worst Halloween movie? Was it this or Resurrection or Halloween 2 by Rob Zombie? It's that low for me. I'm going down to it too. For butcher knives rating. I don't like it.
And that's fair. You don't have to like it. Okay. For me, I will give this one 5 butcher knives out of 10. Because I think before that tacked on fight at the end, it was a pretty decent movie. That tacked on fight at the end takes off multiple points. That's why it's down to 5. But I think up until that point, it was a good, fun movie. I think that would have been a good, revival kind of, version of this story to like end it on a different note. It would be like, Halloween ends, at least the Michael Myers,
the saga
would be here. Yeah. Right. And it wouldn't have made sense, I guess, because he didn't die at the end of the second one. So it doesn't make sense that he's just not there. I mean, I think there might be these aren't numbered, so maybe they could have like a Halloween something else that's in between these two to explain why he's the way he is. Maybe that would be better. But I mean, with the tacked on ending, they ruined it. And I think, again, that tacked on ending really just hurt it. But other than that, I would say it was a decent movie.
Like I said, it's a tragedy, but
yeah. But I said overall, is it a Halloween movie? No, unless you're going for the whole revival kind of thing. But I would say as a whole, just looking at the movie, 5.
So, I didn't want to read any reviews or anything like that before we did this. But something did come up, and I think would have been a better ending that David Gordon Green said he wrote, but didn't shoot. Are you ready for it? I don't know if you saw it. I don't know if you looked at anything.
I did not. Okay. Did not see it.
He said that one ending he wrote as a post-credit scene was the Silver Shamrock manufacturing process plant that made the mask. We know they're canon. Was going to start producing Michael Myers masks off the assembly line. And that would have been better without the Michael Myers, with the passing of it, would have been better. I think.
No, it would have been better if they showed Michael Myers' guts being put into like the metal that makes the mold for the masks, or something like that, to show like his essence somehow ends up in the mask.
It mixes in with Chucky's melted plastic, and they redo it.
Right.
They merge them together.
But I'm saying something like that. Right, something like that. Sure, I get it. But like again, that tacked on ending ruined that. It really did. Like, if you wanted to say in this movie that like the mask itself is what made Corey evil, like that's might be possible too.
But that was,
you could just move forward with an evil mask. That's fine.
Exactly. The passing of the torch, the evil transfers, and then they have these masks that we have all these potential new Michael Myers. That would have been a far better ending. And I know there's petitions to reshoot this stupid movie, and I don't agree with that. It is what it is, but I want to see that ending. I want to have that set up.
Okay, well, all you need to do to make this movie better is after Laurie pulls the knife out of his throat and Allison opens the door and goes, "What the hell is this?" Shut it off.
Yep.
Right there. And it's a much better movie.
So it could have been the Halloween 3 with no Michael Myers, essentially. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Theory time?
My only real theory is with the third one is the whole I didn't think Michael was actually a real physical character until they forced me to believe it at the end. Other than that, it's fairly straightforward. I don't believe that one doctor. I mean, again, I've already, all my gripes that I have, I've already went over.
Now, if in this timeline we only have one in these three, who was a worse doctor? You have to skip 2 through 6, 7, and 8 at these elements of what we know of Dr. Loomis at this time, and the other doctor, who was the worst doctor now.
Oh, in this timeline, it would be Dr. Satar or whatever. Because at least Loomis, at that point, he shot him 6 times, and then they found him and arrested him, right? So he survived getting shot 6 times, but that's not all that crazy. I mean, people have gotten shot more times and survived. But yeah, I mean, at least he went back to being a doctor, and it seems like he made a name for himself because other people were trying to study
Right.
under him, right? Which means that he wasn't just, pushed off to the side in a little, hole in the wall
Right.
somewhere. No, like he was an actual doctor that did good work after that, and that's why people want to, research his work or, look at stuff like that. So I mean, obviously he was a decent doctor. This other guy just seems like, I don't know what's wrong with him, but like he didn't do much when he was there. He was like, he didn't really care that those podcasters were like intentionally trying to like aggravate his patient.
Right. It's almost like he wanted it. Yeah.
And then when he had the opportunity to, he like tried to murder a cop to go try to see what would happen when he met up with Laurie.
Right. The cop that stopped Loomis from ending Michael Myers probably in 1978. Because Loomis realized that's why he was asking, did he kill again? For at that time, fourth victim, right? So he wanted to end it then. Yeah.
Well, that would have been
fifth, but fourth did they know about? So
right.
You ready to get into my theory?
Yeah, go for it.
So I'm still going with Laurie Strode's a shitty mom. Because her daughter was taken away at 12. It's right. So obviously age-wise, Judy Greer is older than the character because she has to be less than 40. Right.
Correct.
So she loses her at 12. Now, who's to say that she also didn't have a son and a daughter in the same time frame with 3 different guys, and therefore all canon, except somehow Josh Hartnett being the youngest one, she was able to keep for whatever reason, right? And so I still think I am the mindset that 40, especially with this Halloween ends, that more had to have happened for her to become the prepper she did in 40 years. And the town, 40 years ago, 3 then, 4 now in this timeline, people getting killed. I don't believe the animosity would exist for the terror of 40 years. You know what I mean? Like, if all these other events happened, yes, the town would be as angry as they were. At least number 2 happening. Maybe 4 and 5.
Well, I mean, like in this trilogy, they explicitly show that different things happened than what happened in Halloween 2. Like, they don't just suggest them, they literally show you.
Doesn't mean Michael Myers couldn't have escaped after he got arrested, though.
Oh, it does, because they said that he
I'm just saying that it could be one timeline. It didn't have to be separate timelines. It could have been one timeline. And...
wait, what? All of it is one timeline?
I mean, Silver Shamrock exists. So we...
Well, I mean, okay. So, like, I mean, I get, like, 3 could have. I mean, I get that. I'm just saying, like, in this one, 2 and this trilogy can't exist in the same universe.
If they didn't do that flashback, it could have. If they didn't retroactively throw in a 5th victim, it easily could have fit into the timeline.
Oh, I mean, it would have been a sloppy fit, but yeah, I mean, yeah, you could definitely fit that in there, but because again, you don't know her history of her children or what's going on, or why certain children wouldn't know about other children. I mean, yeah, that's sure, all that stuff, I get it, but they explicitly show different events happening in this than they do in 2, so therefore, at the very least, Halloween 2 can't exist in the same universe as this trilogy, but without Halloween 2, 4, 5, and 6 can't happen either.
Yeah,
because you get the whole explosion and you get the whole fucking thing, and it's mentioned in all those other movies, which means they're all in the 2 timeline, which means they can't be in the same timeline as this new trilogy either. So without that flashback, sure, because they all technically happen in different time frames. So yeah, we could jump around to different things, and we'd have to come up with excuses to why they never discuss other events of things that would have happened. And they say that she's been here for 40 years. We're like, okay, well, what about the years she was in California?
Well, maybe she, she could go, I've been prepping and I tried to run away and didn't do anything.
No, yeah, I mean, all of these things can be explained away. Like I said, some of them kind of sloppily, but there's no like contradicting stuff. I would say up until, it would essentially be, kind of in the first one in this trilogy, because they do say that he killed 5 people.
Right. But she said, said 3.
Definitely.
But that's the thing. There was inconsistency. One said 5. She said 3.
Well, they said 5 people, 3 teenagers. Both can be true. But I'm saying but you can get around that for the first one. I can see that. But the second one, you literally can't, because they show flashbacks of different events happening. So so everything except for kills and ends could happen in the same timeline.
Yeah. I mean, we could even said that Marion survived somehow in H2O. Unlikely, but possible.
Yeah, highly unlikely, but possible. Yeah. I don't think they showed her definitively getting killed. They showed her getting stabbed, but I don't think they showed her dying.
So, like I said, obviously, with Laurie could survive that 10-foot fall into the comfy trees to survive.
Yes, easily. That one, yes, I will easily give you. I'm not going to hold you to that death, because that was the lamest death I've ever seen. I was like, again, I was not convinced. I was like, she's not dead. I was like, there's no way that's a death. And I was expecting it to open on her somewhere else, like having, pretended she was dead, or, having a different name. But no, that was
but we caught up that one scene, and it's, as far as timelines are concerned, it could be easily as shitty and sloppily put together as other franchises that exist and been fine.
Oh yeah, I am not saying that this would, even with those rules, it would not be the sloppiest timeline in existence. I'm just saying that explicitly can't have 2, and then, like I said, kills and ends cannot exist in the same universe. But I said the first one, sure, with how the inconsistencies and how sloppy they were about it, sure, I'll give you the 2018 Halloween could still exist in the same timeline. But yeah, kills and ends cannot.
That's fair. So yeah, I mean, just cut off a 5-minute scene and we're good.
Yeah, essentially.
All right, so now that you've watched, let's just get final thoughts as a franchise as a whole. I know you hadn't seen most of these because it isn't your favorite franchise. Do you have different thoughts on it? Do you like it, the idea of it worse, more after seeing 13 of them now?
I think, here's the main thing that I got out of watching all of these is I think I am even more justified now in saying that Rob Zombie's movies were good. Okay, because at that time when I watched those, I had not watched all the rest of them, and everybody kept telling me, "Oh, well, he ruined the story," or blah, all that other kind of bullshit. But now, I wish I would have watched 4, 5, and 6 at that time. I wish I would have even watched H2O and Resurrection at that time, and I would have been like, literally holding up my hand with this list of crap movies that are in this time. I'd be like, really? It's better than these? I mean, again, I really think I'm adamant on it being, those being good. They're not the best. I would say the original one is still the best, but I would say right under the original one would be the Rob Zombie ones. I think they're really good. But I mean, other than that, I think, like I said, I think the first one of this last trilogy was really good.
Yeah, I feel like it's a good return to form.
Yeah, it was a good movie. I mean, it was done well. Like I said, it had some interesting, cool stuff there. But yeah, I mean, the second one just upset me, and I did not like it. The third one I did like until the stupid parts that I don't think should be there. Whatever. So
what is of the 4 timelines, as we're calling them, right? What is your favorite timeline?
It will be the timeline that everybody loves to hate. The Bastard timeline. like again, as I like the Rob Zombie ones a lot, and I really like 3. I think it got an unfair hatred at the time. I think it got the same hatred that the Rob Zombie ones did. For I mean different reasons, but that same nerd hatred, right? Of like, horror nerds saying this isn't what I expected it to be. So I would say if I had to pick one, I would do that. I would say the first one, because obviously the first one is the highest rated one of all these, right? But like the rest of that Thorn timeline really drags it down. I mean, it's got the ball and chain around its legs of 4, 5, and 6 of like, come on.
Yeah. I would go with the first Laurie Strode timeline.
Yeah, that would be my second favorite.
So what is your? I mean, you're gonna probably say Rob Zombie is. Rob Zombie is the best Sister 1 and 2 movie that you have to watch together, or do you think the original Halloween 1 and 2?
Well, okay, I will say yes, because they're the only ones that are explicitly coupled together. Because we have a whole trilogy here that ignores the second one from happening. You know what I mean? So, like, obviously you don't need to watch the second one with that one, because if you're on a different timeline, you don't have to. So, I mean, I guess that would be the only reason why. Just because, these franchise, the whole timeline as a whole, people have like ignored certain movies. So the only one that can't be ignored completely is the Rob Zombie ones, because obviously you can ignore the first one completely if you just watch the Rob Zombie ones. But like the only ones that cannot be ignored is the Rob Zombie ones if you just watch those. You have to watch them together. None of the other ones can take its place.
Do you feel like you would rewatch this franchise as a whole again, or when the next one comes out, and then we just go, hey, listen to these podcasts and we'll just do this one off as they come?
I mean, it depends on how long it's going to be. I mean, as a whole, would I rewatch the whole franchise? Probably not. I mean, like, there's a lot of, 1 and 2, good. Rewatch those. Rob Zombie ones, good. 3, good. The first one of the last franchise, those are good. I would rewatch those, but like the rest of those, I would need a reason.
All right. So, final question then. As this is only we're not counting the Predator franchise, but if we're talking horror movie franchises, what was better, this or Hellraiser? As a whole. Okay.
As a whole.
My answer is Halloween.
I mean, Hellraiser has some bad movies, don't get me wrong, but it has some great movies that balance it out. Now, this one has some good movies in here too, but there's a lot of stinkers in it that drag.
So you think we're going to do a spreadsheet of our scores.
Okay, well, I'm going to say, okay, and to me, the ones that I don't like, 4, 5, 6, H2O, Resurrection, Kills, Ends.
Okay.
That's 7. That's the most. That's more than half of this franchise are ones that I don't like.
This is better than
now Hellraiser. There are ones that I don't like, but there are more that I like.
Better than Jeepers Creepers franchise.
Yes, absolutely yes.
We struggled bust through 2 of those.
Yeah, I know. That's rough.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Jeepers Creepers still has Reborn has our lowest score. So,
Well, I mean, as
I don't think we're going to find anything lower. So, I said,
don't say never, man.
I mean, I still like the Halloween franchise a lot. Yes, there's definitely down notes of this being 6 Resurrection, and part of Kills and part of Ends. But I don't think it's going to be something I'm not going to continue to love. I just want to see what the next thing is. I'm excited for the next thing, and hopefully we get our anthology, because this is never, as long as it makes money, this is never going to die.
No, and I'm pretty sure that these last trilogies have been big enough to where
absolutely
money, or at least made it to the point. I mean, because Ends they released in theaters. Yeah. Right. So if it's still big enough to be released in theaters, they're at least going to have a follow up that's a direct to video at the very least.
I mean, this is the only franchise I believe where every movie has been in theaters.
Okay, that's fair.
Well, no, all the Friday 13th were too.
All the Nightmare on Elm Streets?
Okay, well, this is the first franchise that we've watched that we reviewed that all of them have been.
Okay,
So.
that's fair.
All right, so why don't you take us out?
Okay. Yeah. Stay tuned for our next podcast. We'll be discussing the VHS franchise, including the new VHS 99, which comes out on October 20th.
Came
Or it
out,
already
yep.
did come out. Came out on October 20th. Yeah. So we'll be watching those.
5,
How many?
yeah.
There's 5? 5? Yeah. Yeah. So that would be what VHS, VHS 2,
viral,
VHS viral, and then VHS was it 94? 95?
90, yeah,
90 something.
Yeah. 94.
And then another new one is 99. Yep. So yeah. So yeah, that'll be next episode. Until then, this is Salem saying long live the new flesh.
This is Graveyard saying, have you checked on the children?